You're not live, are you?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know.
Hello and welcome to Election 18 coverage on FATV. I'm here with City Councilor Mark Bedanza, my co-host for the evening, and our guests for the hour, Leominster Mayor Dean Mazzarella, and Patty Martin, the chairwoman of the Fitchburg Democratic City Committee. Thank you for joining us. Polls close in 1 hour. I'm hearing it's somewhat of a brisk turnout. Mark.
Yeah, that's what I see. I was in my home precinct back around 2 o'clock this afternoon, and I think the vote total was already up to about 800. So bodes pretty well for, I think we'll have at least 60% or north of that for a turnout in Leominster.
Mayor, the rain's not putting a damper on your city turnout?
No, people are, made their mind up. They're coming out, and listen, it's the excitement that builds, and it's been building right throughout the country, throughout the state, the city, and when you get those elections where people feel like, it's not, it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, it's sort of nothing exciting going on, and that's when they say it's raining out, or I got home late, or whatever. This time, I think it's a little bit different, where people are sort of engaged and they're ready to go, and it didn't matter. People come in off the train early, from Boston, or they left work a little early, or obviously, school wasn't in session today, so that left a lot of young kids coming in with their parents, which was really fun. Yeah. So yeah, been busy. I have no clue what the numbers are going to be. I don't claim to. I can just tell you the parking lots were amazed to get through too. So that's an indication, I guess.
Patty, what are you seeing in Fitchburg?
Well, I think I was at Ward 2 this afternoon, probably about 2:15, and the numbers were up over, between the 2A and B, up over, well over 1,100 voters. So that's a good turnout. I mean, I heard all the polls were very busy this year. So, and people got out and voted. There's a lot of young people coming out. So hopefully we'll just have to see what the numbers reflect at 8 o'clock, 8:15. But it's been a ride since back in April. I know we've been grinding it and moving it and keeping busy, and I really never have seen it this organized in our party before as I have this year. I made that comment the other night at one of the events that I was really pleased to see that everybody was working together You know, and that's the only way you're going to get things done. Whether you win or you lose, by working together is the only way you're going to make a change.
So conventional wisdom in the past that a higher voter turnout helps the Democrats, a lower voter turnout helps Republicans, but that's been kind of turned
Yeah, I'm not-
turned on,
Yeah,
turned over in the
all
last
the
few
rules are
years.
gone. You know, I mean, with, you know, the rules of having to stand outside
Right.
with all these people
Yeah.
holding signs.
Yeah.
You know, the dynamics of really have changed. But I think one of the interesting things that we can't sort of bypass is the feeling that a candidate has at 7 o'clock at night when you got 1 hour to go. It's dark, daylight savings time kicks in, the weather isn't great, you give it all you got, you're tired, and people walk up to you and say, so what do you think? They don't know what to think at this point.
What I found is that if you want to know the true dynamics of a race, talk to the person who's watching from a distance.
Right.
The closer you get into a campaign, the more you're living inside of that bubble.
New phenomenon to drive turnout too, in my opinion, is social media. This, you know, today if you went onto social media, all you saw was people with stickers, "I voted."
Yeah.
I mean, it's like this is the thing. People want to show their dinner on social media. Now they want to show a sticker, "I voted."
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people.
I got my sticker today.
How many people posted that they voted?
Right.
In fact, there were
I got my
people
sticker.
parodying it. It was getting to that point.
Right.
So I honestly think that's starting to drive the turnout.
I'm thinking of in the next election, I'm thinking of starting a side business, and that would be a designer sticker that would be designed for each community. So you could have it the shape of Leominster, you could have it the shape of Fitchburg, whatever it might be. So they would be really like designer stickers.
Lemon
Maybe we
stickers
could-
are bigger, I noticed this year. But I'm wearing this one for my friend Dave because he loves Dave in Fitchburg.
That's right.
Because Dave Clement, he loves the sticker.
Maybe
so
we
I'm wearing
could
it
put
just for
a
him.
thing you could hang the year on.
That would
Each
be
year
cool,
you
too.
vote,
Yeah, that's
so
what I'm saying.
You
Designer.
get a big badge.
You can really, you know, you can really start
Why
to.
not? So we're sitting here, 2018. I remember election night 2016, my jaw hitting the floor
Yeah.
when the presidential election. Right. 2017, I'm sitting in city council chambers with Mark when the mayoral results came out. I can't even imagine what you were going through that night. But
I was, you know what? You're like, I gave it my best. I'm telling you, that's the mindset. Is I worked really hard. I gave it my best.
Right.
I had to run against somebody that really wasn't there.
Yeah.
You know, there was no debates. There was nobody there. There were other people speaking for him. So I had to run that kind of a campaign. It's like, and then at the same time, I had to tell people who were my supporters. You know, we logged in 1,533 voters who typically would have come to the polls that didn't come.
Right.
So I'm thinking, you know, at this
It was a
point, I'm
weird
thinking,
dynamic.
I'm tired. I want to win by one. And I said that I always say that. I want to win by one because that's the whole system is
But I
set
don't think
up.
anyone expected you to win
No,
by 1 or
no.
100. We
Right.
got that in 2016. We got it in 2017. So what I made a promise to myself is tonight nothing is going to
Don't
surprise
predict
me.
it. No.
Nothing
And I think every election is
surprise
going to
me.
be that way from now on. I just think there are going to be no. Remember, there are a good number of people now that don't respond to polls,
Right.
who keep their information to themselves. They don't want anybody to know. And this is one of the issues I think that came up big time in the last couple of days. Is when people went to early vote, you had to write your name on the envelope, and people are like, well, who opens that envelope? Are they going to look
Right.
to see who I voted for? If they, they go through a bunch and then they see Mark Bedanza and they're like, geez, this one's a little curious. Who Mark? Right? I mean, that
Could happen.
logistically could happen. So that just goes to show you that people's privacy is important, and a lot of people are keeping who they're voting for to themselves.
Yeah. Except on social media. But going back to Mark's point about social media and why these elections are so unpredictable, I think, and you can give me your thoughts, but one of the things that I think is in the past, if a candidate said or did something really stupid or really brilliant, it takes a while to filter through the coffee shops and the workplaces,
yeah.
when people used to work in the city that they lived in. But now, that's instantaneous all over social media. And even if the candidate realizes they screwed up and delete their comment, that 10 people already screenshot it and that thing's going viral.
Yeah, but
So-
there's also a credibility issue with how much of the information do I see in here is real. So as I scroll through, I'm seeing ads and people that said things, and then I look and they didn't say those. They said these things like 10 years ago.
Right.
Somebody's trying to make you. So I think the credibility part of what's going on out there, you kind of look at it and then just kind of move through it.
But how much do people filter that? I mean, we're at the point where the newspaper is reporting social media.
Exactly. So, but what I'm saying is, I don't know how much credibility people as they go through these things because the ads are starting to, just regular ads, political ads.
Yeah.
So I think people, what I'm looking for? Somebody that just had a baby. I love that. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
so and so just had a grandson or a daughter.
It's a
baby.
new world.
Somebody got married. That's what I'm looking for.
I helped a guy who was an NFL agent that represents people on a marketing basis. And I spoke to some of his clients. One of his clients was Brian Cushing, who was a linebacker that played for the Texans, so it still does, I think. And I spoke to him. He made the point that I have more social media subscribers than the Houston Chronicle does.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
They can't treat me the way they would have treated me 5 years before that.
Right.
Right.
So we're in a different world.
Right. And just look at here. I mean, there's probably more people watching Flap and FATV right now than there are. That wouldn't happen 10 or 15 years
No.
ago.
Right.
That would have been some other media that was covering it. They don't have the staff. They do a great job at the Sentinel Enterprise, the Champion. They just don't have the staff to do it. So, they have to kind of follow in what's going on and what, So their tip, the people that used to tip them, now the tip is what goes on in social media. You see an interesting story and like, hey, you know what? That looks good. Why not? Why not make the best use of technology?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that with social media and everything happened, we live in that instantaneous environment. That has election night really now become a snapshot in time rather than a culmination of an entire campaign?
Well, campaigns don't last 3-4 months unless you have a lot of money.
Right.
Campaigns come down to just the last couple of weeks. In fact, I think it's down to maybe a week now. I mean, before they'd say the campaign starts after September, after Labor Day. I think it's even shortened down. You got to be ready and organized. But you got to be ready to go. Did you see the amount of postcards? I don't know about you, but I've never seen so many postcards in my entire life.
Well, I was talking to Beth Lindstrom today about that. They claim that direct mail works.
Yeah.
And
well, you got to see their
expensive.
name. You got to see their name 3 times, 4 times. That's the old. I don't know if that works, but I know those postcards didn't come. The Democratic committee didn't send those out 3 months ago.
No.
They sent
No.
them out the last few days,
They've
the
been
last
right,
week.
and they're
So,
huge.
They
They were told, make them big, because if not, they're going to get lost in the mail,
They're billboards.
lost with other mail,
Yeah.
in the books.
I launched
So
one of
many
those
of
in
Sometimes 2 or 3 from the
1993
same
Oh,
candidate.
oh, yeah.
against you. Didn't work out too well.
See scars on my back? It's always me. It's like, always me. But I have to say that
Remember that? Jack Mahan?
I spent most of my career trying to make friends. Really, I have. I never knew a business in my life where you could, where suddenly you could just be enemies by the virtue of the fact that you got elected. It's always like I thought you got elected. Everybody's like, okay, let's group hug, let's all cry around, and let's all work in the right direction. Right? And then I'm thinking. But over time, I think when people see you work and they see what your intentions are, and I always tell people, I say this at schools all the time, I don't like politics. I have no interest in I'm not one of these junkie guys that gets excited about it at all. I like getting the work done. That's my. So I think once people see that, but I've spent my whole career trying to make friends, right, Kevin? I mean, really, I'm going out of my way to try to make friends. But sometimes you just can't.
Hey, Dean, we're a testament to that.
Yeah. No. But think about it.
If you think about it.
No. Well, think about it. You have a job. It's a local job. It's an entry-level job, wherever it might be. I don't even know sometimes that this job's available, but people go on the internet. So 10 people put in for the job. One person gets the job. 9 people
I'm mad at you.
Why are you mad at me? I didn't even know the job.
Well, you must have been able to navigate that
It's
pretty good. What is it? The longest-serving mayor in Massachusetts.
I know, but what I'm saying is, in this business, you can.
It's not easy.
When you come from the outside, and you're not used to this. Because I wasn't a political junkie. I did get involved in some, the old Skip Burke days. You get involved in some things. You sometimes like, why did I get involved? But you get involved at a very low level. I had no clue that this is how it works. I thought people just automatically liked you if you're a good guy.
They
and
have
they saw
to
you
test
work
your
hard.
character,
Right.
and once they dissect you and know who
it gets a
you
little
are and
easier.
what you're up to and what you're doing.
But Kevin, even you have to admit, I'm a different person than I was when I first started.
I think we all are, aren't we?
Of course.
We all are.
And that's the thing.
We all
I had to
evolve.
learn my way around. I had to fake this. I didn't exactly know. I mean, I had a lot of ideas and things that I wanted to implement, but I certainly wasn't anybody that was
If you
coming
don't know
out
what
of
to
here.
do, you punt.
Well, I remember your first day in office when I ran in. I was on the city council at the time. I ran into you in City Hall, and you had a box of chocolates and offered to be something. So you knew the way. I mean, you're definitely
I
on
was
the right.
trying. I didn't want to eat them all. I mean, I had some manners. But this is a different business for anybody that's
Well, it makes you
watching
different
today.
too. You have to be different.
It does, and I think I'm a better person for the whole thing. And my friends be like, easy on the cocky stuff. You got to be less, And so I think I've calmed down, and I really have learned a lot. And I learned a lot from a whole lot of people. People sitting right here, I learned a lot. I don't know they know that. A guy like Jack Mahan, you watch that. That was grassroots, taking care of things on your street, potholes, things. That's 28 years of that. That's a lot can't be said. They didn't have social media. People
Right.
come pounding on
Oh,
your
right,
door,
absolutely.
right, banging on your door. Hey, Jack, I got a problem over here. These neighbors are keeping me. Oh, that's that kind of grassroots kind of thing that was going on. So I had a lot to learn. I'm still learning.
You know, it's funny. If you think that politics has sort of escalated to a point where it's become more vitriolic, in the last few years, I went back and my mother, God rest her soul, when I was city solicitor, cut out all of these newspaper articles from when Steve was mayor, Steve Perola, and I said to myself, I got to go through these someday, and I pulled them out. It was worse then.
Yeah.
I mean, what was going on? I mean, there were a lot of
Oh, the
battles.
Perla Rosa feud?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean,
That's one good thing is I can say the city council. I mean, honestly, I talk to other mayors, and I'm like, you know what? I'm lucky I have a good city council. I mean, for the most part, they work really closely with me. We each know our role. We help each other out. A guy like Dave Cormier or yourself, we have a lot of good people on the city council. And so I've been fortunate for that because I think we do work as a team, and there's plenty of room on the stage, but we get a lot done. I mean, we get a ton done. So you're right. Those years were really, right? I mean, remember those years were like, wow.
yeah.
A lot of it too, those city council meetings weren't televised back then too,
No.
so that
You either went or you didn't
people are
know.
kind of held on a leash these days too. There.
Yeah.
Well, Jack McLaughlin said one day, he said to me, we didn't have TV. We didn't have any of this. So he said, I remember, he said, unless you were like vitally ill and there was an event in town, you better be there.
Right.
Because that was your way of
Right.
sort of engaging with the public. So they didn't know what you looked like. They didn't know anything. They'd read your name in the paper.
And the public used to show up there.
Exactly. So it was different dynamics. So now, we have some people that are more active than others. Mark's active, Cliff Reeder. You have some people that are active and some less active. But, they can watch them on TV, right?
Right. So speaking of active, this election year, we have both state representative seats in Leominster and Fitchburg contested. We have the state Senate seat contested. We have both congressional seats, Leominster and Fitchburg, contested. This is the first time in over 25 years that we have all of our local legislative races contested.
Really?
It is. I mean, Angelo Pacuzzi, 1967 to 1988. 22 years, never had an opponent as state rep.
Yeah.
Now we have all these races contested. Is the polarity in this country now, the division that we're seeing? Is this the new norm? Are we going to get more contested races?
It seems that way.
I think so too.
It seems
I
that
think
way.
people are going to step forward. Even if they don't have a chance, they're going to get in the arena and run. Either they think they can do better, or they want to see better, or maybe it makes the candidate better by them running. Sometimes having somebody run against you makes you work harder and think better and do better. Right.
So election integrity, to switch it up a little bit, election integrity, big concern since 2016. You mentioned it about the privacy, voter privacy. So people are concerned about how do they make sure that their ballot gets to the ballot box and their vote is counted. So we had City Councilor Dave Cormier speak with the City Clerk, Caitlin Huffman,
She's doing a great job.
She's doing a great job. They're both doing a great job. So he had a short conversation with her about voter integrity. So we're going to cut away to that now and watch that video.
So, I think there's been, a lot of question after the 2016 presidential election, about the integrity of voting. And, some people, you hear every now and again, they say, well, why should I go vote? It doesn't count, when they hear things about, machines being hacked and stuff like that. So how secure are our machines? And who has access to the ballots and where are they stored and how are they transported and things like that, so people can know that their vote is not being tampered with and the will of the people is actually being carried out by that vote.
Sure. So our machines actually do not have any Wi-Fi connection or internet connection at all. They have these memory cards that are pre-programmed by a company, LHS Associates, and they have a very basic computer code that's been given to them, and each machine is programmed separately. These machines' cards are locked inside the machine that has a seal and a key. You can't actually go into them. And we test these machine cards prior to election day, and we post for that so the public can see it happening and make sure that they're reading the right way. They actually go through a state vetting process as well, so the state won't actually approve a machine unless they feel that it's secure and safe and not at risk for cyber attacks or anything like that.
Okay.
So as far as the ballot transporting goes, the ballots are always transported in a ballot bag that's secure and sealed. We take all the numbers down of all the seals for each ward and precinct and make sure that we have them recorded in our office when they're leaving to go into a truck that is actually followed by a police officer when we go and we deliver them on election day.
To all the polls? Yep.
Yes, all the polls. And every time a seal is broken, it's recorded in our clerk's election record, so we have a really good log of what's going on and who has touched what.
Okay.
When the ballots are actually casted and done and they've been sorted, they get placed back into this secure election bag. They get new seals that are recorded by the clerk's election record, which is the person that you would see at the warden's table in charge of the ward and precinct in the area. And they get taken by the police officer and escorted back by police officer at the end of the night to City Hall. Then they come in and they check in with me, and I make sure they have everything they're supposed to and everything is secured. Once I know that the ballots are secured and good to go, they go right upstairs into the vault at City Hall and are locked away in the presence of a police officer at all times.
Okay. And how long are those ballots? How long does the state require you to keep them in case there's ever any question about the election?
22 months.
For 22 months.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. So this is your first election, and well, you've been through the primary, but this is your first general election, and so I know that you're kind of new. What are you expecting for a voter turnout here in Leominster?
So it's my first midterm election in Leominster, but I've had 6 years experience prior in a different community, and based off of our numbers before that I was analyzing, I think we're going to have about an 80% turnout. So we're looking at about 18,000 voters coming out on election day.
That should be pretty big then. You'll certainly be busy. And what about early voting? What's so far, today's Thursday, the 25th, so what kind of early voting turnout have you seen so far?
We've had about 1,000 people already come out for early voting. So we think about 30% of our 80% will happen during
early voting. Wow, very good. Well, you certainly have your work cut out for you between now and November 6th. It's a very busy time, and we wish you well with your first election, and I'm sure you'll do just fine. So
thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Very good. So you heard the city clerk talk about predicting a big voter turnout. They recorded that a couple weeks ago. What is the voter turnout? We have Heather De Jesus, who is live in Fitchburg's Ward 4 at the Senior Citizen Center. Heather, you joining us?
Hey, Kevin, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, Joe Burns.
I'm good.
It looks like you found a friend.
I did find a friend. I'm here with Joe.
Hi, Joe.
He just asked you hi.
Hi, what's Kevin?
Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Right.
Joe
Yeah.
Byrne here, warden of 4A.
So, Kevin, could you tell us a little bit about the voter turnout today and what the numbers look like so
I
far?
don't know if Kevin can, but Joe can. Joe's still sharp.
Oh, he is.
We surpassed ourselves. Last midterm elections, we did 500. We have got that today and even more. We're above 500. We're up to like 550, and 4B is over 700, and they had 500 last time. So a lot more people are showing up and coming out, and people seem really, really excited. And this is going to be one great election.
That's great. Joe,
Yes, definitely.
can you ask, Heather, can you ask Joe, when he's talking about comparing the voter turnout, is he comparing it to the presidential election 2 years ago or the midterms back in 2014?
Yes, certainly. So Kevin was just asking if you could clarify if the voter turnout, are you comparing it to the last midterm? Or
The last midterm is what I'm comparing it to.
Right, last midterm, Kevin.
That's great news, especially with the...
The thing that really helped us out this time was the early voting. The city of Fitchburg did approximately 2,250 ballots for early voting in the 2 weeks that we were open, which is about 9% of the registered voter here in Fitchburg. So I think that was really, really an outstanding thing. And if we can get the Secretary of State next time to allow us to do evening ballots, would probably even get more.
Perfect. And Kevin, I've seen a lot of people trickling in today. In fact, I had an opportunity to talk to quite a few voters earlier today.
All right, let's watch that.
How's that? Perfect, you can hang up now. Cool. Students coming in to vote, was there any particular motivators this election that brought you out?
No, I think the main thing is that a lot of young people don't vote, and I feel like it's because a lot of them aren't, and they don't necessarily know what the questions are. And I feel like if I, as a young person, get out there and vote, then it helps other people to be motivated to vote as a young age.
Now, just what does an ideal candidate look like for you?
Someone who will work for the middle class and not just himself.
What does it look like for you?
For me, the ideal candidate is somebody who's willing to see everything from all sides, not just completely stuck in their position right from the get-go. Somebody who can listen to constituents, hear their concerns, and then evaluate from there and make the decision that's best for everybody.
To ask if there was something different with these midterms that are bringing more people out, because I have seen a little steadier stream today.
Well, you know, there's a lot of movements out there, and I in particular, I've been living in the city of Fitchburg for 35 years, and for 34 years I've been working with the community. So I encourage the Latino community to get registered and to vote. After all, is it their constitutional right? There's many issues that affects not only the Latino community, the community at large. But in this particular midterm election, there's so many going on with minorities and with the Latino community that I think that has fueled the energy behind the machine that brings the people out.
And the ideal candidate, what does that look like for you?
Someone who is for the community and for equal rights, basically.
Thank you, Heather De Jesus, talking to voters of Fitchburg today. And now we are going to go live to the Elks in Leominster, where the Dean Tran, Elmer Eubanks, and who am I missing? Richard Palmieri. They're all gathered at the Elks in Leominster. We're going to go live to Glenn Fossa, who's there at the Elks. Glenn.
That was fast. They got here quick.
Here we go.
And we are just over the line here. The Tran train has just pulled in to the Leominster Elks, where live coverage is still going on here for Fitchburg Access Television Decision 2018. Just information for voters was sent out by the state along with a registration card. So voters turning out by the numbers, even in the inclement weather. We're seeing now folks pulling into this area where the Dean Tran camp and Palmieri and Casey will all assemble to see what the results will be tonight. We are live, and we're anxious to see the results with you tonight as live coverage continues, along with the Kevin Cormier Flap Gang and the full crew of Fitchburg Access Television. Stay with us right here for live coverage.
Thank you, Glenn. How's this the local coverage of election night?
Pretty good, Kevin.
A little different?
A lot of balls in the air.
Don't drop one.
Make sure nobody's at the bar when you switch over. Don't look too good. Hey, what's going on? Hey, can I have a...
Well, we're going to try new things, right?
Yeah.
This hasn't been done
So far,
before.
so good.
You get a job.
we're
A
gonna
good
do it.
job.
Now we just have to get all the numbers to come in. And, you know, in the past, also, we all gather down city council chambers and we wait for those ballots to be transported down to City Hall by police car, and then it's, you know, they're looked over by the city clerk, all confirmed and then read out. So we tend to get election returns a little later. But tonight, what a lot of people don't know is they post those election results immediately at the
Right
polling
to the machine
place.
at 8 o'clock. They're going to hit it. Whatever comes out of it,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
going to walk outside and post it outside the ballot.
Yeah, and we have people outside all those polling
do?
places. We do. We have people
Oh.
outside all of those polling places.
Thought of it all.
We did. So we're going to be getting these results in pretty quickly once the polls close and
Real time.
Real time. Yeah.
See, you can pull this off tonight. You'll become the thing. You'll become it, right? Then the media is going to have to pay attention to what's going on, because they're going to have to watch you to find out what the results are, because they don't have the ability to say something.
Absolutely.
Who knows? Maybe I'll start getting paid.
There you go.
Patty, what are you looking for coming out of Fitchburg tonight?
Well, I'm hoping for good numbers, which I saw today. A lot of people out there voting. You know, I don't want to say we want to see the blue wave. I think we can do both bipartisan with, both parties. But I would just like to see just more humility, more humanity. We haven't seen that in so long, and it just seems like it's starting to trickle down. into local, because at one time people thought, well, if we handle the local, we'll be all set. Well, it's starting not to be that way. And unfortunately, you know, we don't want to see that. We want everybody to be able to work together. And we'll just see what happens. We just may the best man win. We have to support whoever's going to win, whether it's one way or the other. You know, I mean, I have my picks, but everybody has their own picks. And we just have to wait and see what happens with the numbers. I know we worked very hard.
I think this didn't come down to, I don't think, a whole lot of undecided voters in the state of Massachusetts here. I think this is really easy. I mean, there's a column here, and so you can go down, whether it's immigration or the economy or whatever it might be. It's very clear. I mean, the candidates aren't similar in too many instances. I mean, so I didn't see a whole lot of like people undecided this time. Didn't see it.
I think, you know, a generation ago there was litmus tests. You know, a candidate's position on one issue might seal a deal for a voter. I don't think that's the case anymore.
Not as you get locally, especially if you get locally.
Even on a national level. And I think, you know, it comes down to, you know, as you know, my buddy in New Hampshire who's running tonight, in fact, we may have his result first. Lou D'Alessandro, the longest serving state senator in New Hampshire, who has a dramatic impact on 2020 in the presidential election because of his position up there, has told me over and again in researching his book, it comes down to trust and likability. Ooh. And you see, I mean, with the largest, I mean, we have more independents than the other party, right, in Massachusetts.
Right.
So I think people are quite willing to cross party lines to vote for a candidate they like.
Very much so. But I do think locally, they probably met the person and they know more about them. Nationally, on sort of the national scene, I think people are pretty clear on where they are on particular
We're becoming more polarized.
Exactly.
We are.
So,
I think a lot of that is the media also. It used to be we had 3 networks that pretty much played it down the middle. But then when you had this proliferation of cable news, right? You had Fox News. Okay, so Fox News has the conservative tilt. And then you have MSNBC that has the liberal tilt.
There's so many
so
of them,
people,
yeah.
and then people get attracted to their own preconceived biases, and they're not hearing other sides anymore.
Yeah, for instance, this morning, I looked at it, I don't know, around 6 o'clock, and it said, the Democrats are leading. I said, what? It was based on early voting across the country. More Democrats went out to early vote. But that's why I say I don't think people know what to trust anymore. They don't know. They don't know the validity of what they're seeing. Then, did you also see? There's also something that sprung up in the last week called midterm election news. Mm-hmm. Who puts that out? Who are these people? And they're generating news all day and night long. Every time I go, I look. They got another story. It's clearly tilted in one particular direction. But I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah.
Is this like the new
It's a business.
Is this like Mass Live? Is this a new group entering, or is this part of a certain party that came up with their own news? Right? I'm like, so you got to be careful. I think now I don't know what's right and what's wrong and what's fake. You know what I mean? I don't.
True.
I really don't.
You don't.
2016 taught us that.
It did.
I'm surprised that isn't suppressing voter turnout because people just turn it off because they don't know what to believe.
Well, they're going to believe what they want to believe, and I think people are intelligent enough, if you just leave them alone, to make their own decision. And again, things are so polarized. You know, I mean, I would love to sit down with the president and actually interview him, because coming from, mid-sized cities in Massachusetts, where manufacturing was once huge. I mean, everybody's relative here worked in manufacturing.
Absolutely.
I would love to know. I would love to be able to ask pointed questions about certain things and get a pointed answer to it. I don't feel we can get answers from anybody anymore. Even these governor's elections across the country, in the real heated ones, I don't know how people are making a decision other than they're probably really clear on, they're probably on the main issues. They're probably not close at all, and that's how people are going to vote, right? Yeah. It's a question of who brings out their voters.
Yeah. So we talk about, party splitting and polarity. I think we all agree that we think Charlie Baker's going to win pretty good tonight.
I think so.
Can we all agree that we think Elizabeth Warren's going to win pretty good tonight?
I think that's a safe bet.
How does that happen?
Well,
I mean, you have the same ballot, and you're going to have a Democrat and you're going to have a Republican both winning by pretty large margins.
Well, I think she on one end is very, very liberal on that liberal end. You know, it's sort of, this isn't like Bernie Sanders is running against Elizabeth Warren.
Right.
This is, you know, two different candidates, and people have the ability to switch over on the ballot, right? So it makes it a little easier. But you know, this isn't like you know, the governor's been like a Ronald Reagan Republican kind of thing.
Well,
I mean,
you know, Warren obviously is pretty well entrenched, but you know, I think as we were talking off air, the Republicans nominated the wrong candidate.
Oh, absolutely. Should have been
without
Beth
a doubt.
Lindstrom,
Yeah,
right?
of course. It would have made anybody knows that. I mean, just look, it's a logical thing. But I mean, the convention system is just. I mean, I was at the Republican convention. You know, they didn't meet the party rule. Deal didn't register 50% of the vote in the first ballot, so they had to vote again. Half of the people left. 2,400 people there, 1,200 left.
Right.
So the second ballot was 1,200 people decided the second ballot.
Right.
I mean, Scott Lively got 36% of the vote at that convention. Think about that one.
It is. One of the strange things about Massachusetts as compared to a lot of the other states is that we have our primaries in September, which gives us a very short window for a general election. If you look at most other states, they're having their primaries in March and April,
Spring,
even
yeah.
the presidential primaries, you know, or in the dead of winter. Could we benefit more, the parties? Would we get better candidates, and if they had a longer window for a general election, a better chance to have more two-party
It's
system?
an interesting question.
Yeah, awful long
I was going to
election.
this would go
I mean,
awful long, yeah.
It just goes on forever, but yeah, I think it's a
This one
valid
here seemed
point.
like it just went on forever. From the third congressional forum that we had until today,
Yeah, that
it's
went on
like it
forever.
seemed like forever that we
agree.
did that. Yeah, and I was like,
It did. It did. It went on a long time. So we see the party split on the statewide level, like with Elizabeth Warren and Charlie Baker. But bringing that down to the local level, do you really see many people who are going to vote for Sue Shalafu, also voting for Richard Palmieri? Or
God, no. Not that particular scenario, no. I think that's a highly unlikely
Yeah,
vote.
right. I mean, there's two people with two
Yeah.
distinct differences.
Yeah. Very distinct differences.
Right.
So it's about voters and what they say,
Yeah.
and FLAP FSU edition is coming up, and our host Alex Ramos talked to some voters at Leominster City Hall today. So let's hear what some of those voters had to say.
Now, today is the big election day. Is there a certain passion that a candidate or an issue that ignited inside of you that made you want to come today and vote?
Oh, I mean, I think it's just so important to come and to vote. I mean, you can't take these rights for granted, and it's just important to show up. And I think I had my mind made up on most of the candidates quite early, and also on most of the ballot questions as well. One of the questions that I was super passionate about was voting yes on 3. I think we need to support transgender Americans. We have a bully in the White House who wants to pick on people to feel bigger, and we got to tell him no. And I think as Massachusetts residents, we can definitely do that. So I'm happy about that.
And speaking of candidates, what do you look for in a candidate?
I think general, there's on the personal and local level, I mean, people that you can communicate with, people that are trustworthy. I don't want to see anybody corrupt. On the more national level, I think I tend to look more at the ideals that are important to me, and that's how I vote.
Now, in this election, there are 3 ballot questions. Which of the 3 are you most passionate about?
I think question 1 is a really interesting one, whether it be from an emotional standpoint, if you've had a sick individual in the hospital, or just from the business aspect of someone, and hospitals are businesses, unfortunately. So just as how many employees do you have to hire for your business? But still, you want to make sure that your loved ones have the best care, and you don't want the person taking care of your family overworked, so they can maintain focus. So I find it's a polarizing question that's very important, and everybody's got a view on it.
Very good. So those are your voters, Mayor Mazzarella.
I hear them loud and clear. and you know what? Honestly, I mean, if you look at it, I don't do this like for my own benefit, but I do, radio. I do my own Inside Leominster. I've done for 25 years. I do all this because it's just a new way of communicating, because I can't get to everybody's doorstep. When I first ran for office, everybody had that Sentinel on their doorstep, and they had the Telegram. Telegram would come in the morning, Sentinel would be at night. Everybody's reading the paper. So anything you wanted to find out, people read the newspaper, from the weather up in the upper left-hand corner to the legal notices on the end.
Don't forget the deaths. The obituaries are the other one.
Weddings, divorces, everything was in there. So how does somebody like me communicate? So I want people to let me know what they're thinking. If they're not happy with something, I don't want them to just talk about that in the coffee shop. I want them to call me and say, listen, this is what I heard, or this is my problem. Can you help me with it? We're going to go the distance to try to help them, customer service-wise. Does it mean we can help everybody? No, but does it mean we're going to give it a good shot? Absolutely. So when, sometimes people hold that, don't share that information. They're not the ones on Facebook or whatever. I have people that handwrite me letters still. Handwrite me letters. I'm like, that's great. Otherwise, the election comes, and then all of a sudden there are all these issues. Well, why don't you tell me now what your issues are before the election, and maybe I can take care of those things. So it's trying to get out there, but today you can't just get out there using the newspaper anymore. You have to be out here like this. You have to be out here using Twitter. You have to be. There are so many different medias that nobody does any one thing anymore, right? In the old days, people got up, they listened to WIM, they read the Sentinel, maybe some in the Telegram, and that was their network of information, right? And then neighbor to neighbor and grassroots kind of thing. Today, it's all over the place, right? I mean, it's Facebook goes 24.
You do a great job, good morning 3 o'clockers, but then even the fact when you lose a veteran or something, you always make it personal and, and bring that to, I think that's great, so, I mean, that's how you have to correspond nowadays. Unfortunately, no one picks up the phone. My phone barely rings, my house phone. I have the landline only because I've had it for 90-something years, but I don't want to get rid of it. But nobody calls it.
Right, but if people have an issue, it's their ward councilor or something, let them know. Whoever they are, he or she, let them know, communicate that. And I think what happens is everybody sort of holds that in, and then the election is the time to kind of, is to kind of like, okay, this is my chance. When in reality, let people, and even if they disagree, right? Because it is so polarized today, where somebody stands on immigration. They might not necessarily agree, but just be honest and share it and say, this is why I think the way I do. And as long as you can do that, and people are respectful about it, I respect people that completely disagree with my feeling. But all I want is my chance to let them know how I arrived at that decision.
Well, so funny you say that, because when I look at particularly the state representative race in Leominster, and I know we talked about this on the show that we had last week, that I think there's a certain feeling, and people say that the current state representative may have a voting record that is to the left of really the demographics of Leominster.
I think that that argument could be made.
But she has great constituent services.
But take it a step further.
Right.
She believes those.
She does.
Okay, she didn't do some poll, and that's why we respect Natalie Higgins. She doesn't just do this because all of a sudden it's fashionable to talk about a certain particular issue. She believes this stuff, though. I respect her for that. I may disagree. Let's just say I disagree with her on a particular issue, but I respect her for that because I know she believes that. Bernie Sanders believes. I don't know about some of these other people, but I've known Bernie a long time. He believes the stuff that he says. And they believe it.
It's a point well taken, because that makes the person more likable.
Yes.
Because you're not getting sold a line.
I might not like their politics.
It's a passion.
But I respect the fact that that is their belief.
And looking at it, and just looking at it from a pragmatic point of view, when you look at the legislature, the makeup of the legislature in Massachusetts, she's not going to be breaking any ties.
No.
And even in the next 2 years, none of her votes are going to be breaking a tie. And if Palmieri wins, he's not going to be breaking any ties. So does it come down to, well, you can forgive her if you disagree with some of her positions on issues. If she's great with constituent services and you feel comfortable that you can call her up, and if you have a problem, she's going to deal with your problem regardless of what your party affiliation is.
For some people, I think they would. Yeah. But, I mean, my politics and hers are really different, right? But constituent-wise, okay, we're a lot closer on that. Taking care of whoever comes through the door, being as helpful as you possibly can to whatever level it needs to be taken until the thing's exhausted. But I say that because our politics are different. However, I respect the fact that she's honest about it. She actually believes this. She doesn't just do this because some poll said you should. You talk about the economy. Talk about education. Oh yeah, we said the formula, the school budget formula, foundation budget. Talk about that. That seems to be the Gallup poll says something about. Yeah, you should talk about it. So she kind of shifts around depending on that.
Yeah.
She doesn't do that.
She's absolutely one of those people that would rather lose doing what she feels is right than win by selling out.
Exactly.
I don't think
and
there's
I
any question
have
there.
tremendous respect for her and her work ethic. It's just, like as I said, some of our beliefs are different.
And that's fine, because you
Yes.
have to do that. But if you can talk to each other
Absolutely.
and figure it out, that's all. That's the whole thing right there. It's just that people disagree and then they turn their backs.
Right.
And that isn't going to help anyone.
No.
It's not going to help anybody doing it that way. So, I mean, disagreeing is great. I mean, it's healthy, but talk to me, explain it to me. I'll explain you my version, and if we can meet on an even rope, works for me.
As long as you have the facts.
Absolutely.
What I don't like is somebody starts speaking for me.
Right.
Like, wait a minute, you read my mind? What do you mean? You tell me, I know what I know. And I'm like, that didn't even happen. That didn't even remotely. That's not what happened. In fact, I didn't think that. I never had a conversation with somebody about it. So unless I talked in my sleep and somebody heard it on nighttime radio or something.
So what do you think? The average voter, where do they, when they weigh a candidate, is their vote going to be based more on issues or the candidate's personality and commitment to constituent service?
It's just visceral. It's like when I
Who you rather have a beer with?
When I try a jury case, it's like, you can go through, you can parse all, I mean, unless you get this smoking gun, you can parse all the facts you want. At the end of the day, people look in the eyeballs of the defendant or a witness and say, I like them, I don't like them, I buy what they're saying or I don't. And I think it really comes down to that. I really do.
But if immigration is a big issue for you, either way, I can see people going to the polls just wanting to know where you stand on that one issue, right? And voting based on that, predominantly on that one issue, if that's really something that's really important.
But even in that, I think, using the president as an example, of course, when you're talking about immigration, he's just tapped a group or a base that's unhappy. And they're looking to blame somebody for the reason they're unhappy. And unfortunately, in the political realm, negative emotions tend to unite much more strongly than positive ones. And that's something that's human nature.
And I think what the country's waiting for is, hey, we got this immigration issue. We want you all in Washington to sit down, put your issues aside, and we want you to come up with something here But
think about this. Does either party want a solution?
Because that means they caved in.
Right. Each party is playing the game, right?
Yeah.
The Liberal Democratic Party saying, "Oh, how can you separate mothers from children?" Which is obviously, that's obviously a bad thing. But and then how can you be worried about this caravan of a few migrant people that need a place to start? And the other side's, banging their drum saying, "Oh my God, we don't have a border, we don't have a country." So they're both using the issue without. Can we find a center?
Right.
Can we find a group of reasonable people to sit down?
There may be candidates in the next election that are basically like, you know what? This can't continue on because the perception is nothing is getting done.
Right. Can we
there
find
aren't any solutions? There's not a national highway infrastructure bill that needs to get passed because stuff's falling apart and we really need it.
Yeah.
So that's where the meeting of the needs to happen. And you're right, nobody wants to be the first one that says, okay, enough's enough. I know it's not going to bring any money. This isn't going to bring us any popularity with people back home maybe, but we really got to sit down. This is not fun to watch anymore.
So we're about 10 minutes from the polls closing.
Oh, boy.
We are. Let's see what it's like out there at the polls. We have Flap TV contributor Alexander Vera live at Sima Park in Fitchburg, which is Fitchburg's Ward 5. Alex, how are things there?
Hey, Kevin. How you doing? Everything's great here. Actually, there's a record voter turnout here. This was actually the polling location that last midterm election had the record number in Fitchburg, and I think they're going to beat the record number again. Right now, as of 2014, there was 1,211 votes for 5A. And right now we're at 1,459 and climbing. The parking lot's still full. People are still coming in. So that's something very exciting to see. And on the other side, 5B as well, I think they're up about 300 from the previous midterm elections.
Wow. Have they fed the early voting ballots into those tabulators yet in Ward 5?
Yep, so the early voting ballots, they got fed in early this morning. And so what happens with that is that for a lot of people out there wondering, hesitant about the early voting because there's the names on the envelopes. So what happens is they get turned into the warden, and the warden then opens the envelopes and they check off the name, but they don't look at the ballot. They just put all the ballots down on a pile. And then once they checked off everybody's name, then they go and they feed it in. So that happened early this morning. The provisional ballots, on the other hand, are being kept, and they're going to be stored away separately. And as you may know, only will be counted in a close vote.
Great. So early voting is a big part of this election season, and now we're seeing the impact of it. We have a rainy, just a nasty weather day, yet we are beating the voter turnout from the midterm elections in 2014. So I know you had a chance to talk with the Fitchburg City Clerk, Anna Farrell, on what the process is for early voting and the future of it. So let's go to that clip of you talking with Fitchburg City Clerk Anna Farrell.
Awesome. Sounds
Thank
great.
you, Alex.
Have a great
Bye,
night,
Alex.
everyone.
Bye,
Good
Alex.
job. Good job.
Bye.
So this is the second major election year that this early voting has gone on. So do you see this gaining popularity and maybe bringing it to the municipal elections?
It's probably just a matter of time before it's offered for municipal elections, but we will wait and see how that unrolls.
Okay, awesome. And so there's obviously a cost factor to early voting, which is mandated by the state. Right. So are they reimbursing the city for any of this, or is the city required to fund this completely themselves?
Actually, we just received notice from the state auditor's office yesterday. There will be some reimbursement funding. Not everything. They will reimburse the costs for the staff here, and some other expenses. If you had to buy additional voting booths, for example, they will reimburse that. But it's pretty much just staffing.
Oh, okay.
So
well, that's definitely good to hear. Yeah, so that the city is not required to put everything.
Right.
So there's a lot of concern these days about election integrity stemming from the 2016 presidential election. For someone concerned about early voting, can you walk us through the process on how they can feel comfortable that a ballot that they cast will find its way to the ballot box?
Sure. Well, as you experienced just now, because you early voted, you went in and you checked in.
Correct.
We do have electronic poll pads. We're checking people in. And once you're checked in, if you were to try to check in again and vote twice, you'd not be allowed to do that because your name will already be flagged as having voted. So you would be refused at that point if you attempted a second time. So that's the first gate. And then you vote, and your ballot is placed in one of those ballot boxes. It does not go through the tabulator at this time. That is the state regulation. They are not counted until Election Day. So we have 2 staff people come up sort of mid-morning, and then we have another 2 staff people when the early voting site closes at 4:30, and we collect all the ballots, and we sort them all alphabetically, and then we run them against a report at the office to make sure that the report says if we had 200 people vote, we have 200 ballots in our hands. We reconcile that every night, and then they are locked up in a vault, and they will stay there until election morning, when they will be transported by the police department directly to the polls, where they will be opened and fed through the tabulator.
So that actually, gives me some peace of mind, because as I was early voting for the first time, putting your ballot in an envelope, gluing it up and then putting it in a cardboard box kind of seemed strange to me. But now you going over the security measures, they are going to be locked in a vault, so no one has access to them, and then they're going to be transported by police car, so no one really can tamper with it. And then once they do get to the appropriate polls, like you said, they will be put inside the tabulator. So that definitely gives a peace of mind.
Right.
All right, awesome. Well, that's all the questions I have for today. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I would just like to encourage people to take advantage of early voting. This is your opportunity to get out and vote. It's easy. It's in a central location. You won't have to stand in line at the polls. So get out here and vote.
Yes, that is correct. If anyone hasn't voted and they're not aware of the early voting process, I mean, it's very easy. I just did it. So come out and vote. You don't have to wait in line. It's very easy, like Anna Farrow said. Thank you very much.
Anyone here early vote, or do we go, are we traditionalists here?
I did tradition.
Tradition?
Tradition.
Yeah, I early voted just because I knew
Did
it was
you
gonna
really?
be a busy day. I just knew it was going to be well, think about how many people come into City Hall to vote. And that's a chance like Old Home Week. I get a chance to talk to everybody. And then there's, interruptions during the day. And I just didn't want to be, one of the last people to get out there tonight and vote.
This is just something about Election Day. I love Election Day. It's just going there.
Hey, can I show you something really cool?
Yeah.
Who's at home watching this?
Is that your grandson?
Oh, how cute.
He's 5 months old. He's pointing to us. He sees his papa, and he's pointing. That's Donovan, right? Isn't that cool, right? See how things have changed?
Yeah.
He's already a fan.
Yeah,
I'm
we
just
were in
saying,
bed. We didn't even know anything about it.
Who would ever think that this is kind of thing that could happen, right?
Farm team.
I'm a traditionalist myself.
Yeah.
I go on Election Day, but I don't even like the little squeaky when you have the magic marker filling in the oval. I like those old. Remember those punch things?
Yeah.
And you
yeah.
you could slam those things down and vibrate the whole table of everyone around
This is
you.
my
right?
chance.
Sometimes
Hanging
technology doesn't work for us.
See, there's more division now in the country.
Like the
I'm a
phones, you can't
divisional,
even-
I'm an early voter, or I'm a traditionalist,
Like
right?
the
I can see this
phone,
coming
like the
now.
phones, you can't even slam a phone down
The
on
next
anyone now.
debate,
Now you
they're
got to
gonna
push a
ask me,
button.
Did you vote early or not? And then people will not vote for me because I voted early. I'm not a traditionalist.
I think you're okay there.
All right, we're about 5 minutes from poll closing. We do have the crews at both parties. I know Michael Delamonica and Cindy Valentin are setting up at Sue Shalafu, Natalie Higgins headquarters. But right now, Glenn is already set up at the Republican headquarters in Leominster. We're going to go check in with him. Glenn?
Live at the Tran camp right here. Just an aside, Crocker Elementary School, Deb Jeffries' crew had an election earlier yesterday and day before. We're going to give you those results, but not until those tabulations are complete at 8 o'clock. Those are going to be very interesting. With me, a friend from Fitchburg, Nancy Maynard. Nancy, you have seen the voter turnout throughout your life. This is a rainy night. Used to mean a lot of people stayed home. Not tonight.
Not tonight. Honestly, I live at the Sundial. There's over 150 elderly people there, and a lot of them were excited that they were able to vote early, and it didn't stop them. They get out and vote, and it's an exciting time for me. I couldn't wait to turn 21 years old to start voting. I've been voting for 60 years, and in all honesty, Glenn, I only missed once, and it was a primary, and I was deathly ill in bed. Too many people gave their lives to give us the right to vote, and it's urgent that people do that.
Well, we're certainly glad that you're not sick tonight and that you got out and that you recovered fully. And, we want to say a special shout out to our chief engineer, our lead engineer, Travis Falk, put the Comrex together for us. That is a wireless setup that Fitchburg Access Television is using to make this very possible tonight here at the Tran camp. People assembling here, maybe about 65, 70 people. I would say the tabulation is going to come in just a few minutes. And, of course, live coverage continues here. Back to you, Kevin and Mark.
Thank you, Glenn. And we are 7:58. Polls are going to be closing in just a couple minutes.
It's starting to get shaky.
Isn't it? Isn't that
It never
this
goes
election
away.
night feeling?
Absolutely, it's
I mean,
great.
A lot of people that don't follow politics just don't understand it.
Oh
but-
man, when you've been out there campaigning,
It's like waiting for a jury verdict.
See, I don't know that either. Thank God.
It is.
You don't even want to look at the jurors when they file back in the room.
No, and your name's not even on the ballot this time, Mayor. What do you still get that same feeling?
Oh,
little
yeah.
butterflies in your
Listen,
stomach.
When you have a 2-year term and you're in the mayor's position, you're always running, right? And the motto's always been, I campaign by doing the job, because you really better get the job done and not wait until the following year to start thinking about what did I say I was going to do, because people remember what you're going to do, and that's the stuff that comes back to haunt you. You say, oh, he said he's going to do this, this, and that. So every day of the week, you've got the shakes on what's going to be in store for today, but it's the best job, the most exciting job, and I learn every day. And great job here. This is, I'm just stunned by this whole thing. Great job.
Thank you.
This is amazing. It's good for the voters, good for the public.
It was a lot of fun.
We're not going to have to, search around and wait for WBZ to report tonight what the results were.
Right.
Watch TV at 11 to find the
WBZ is
results.
going to be waiting for us to
For you?
report.
Oh,
They're
no,
gonna be
no,
watching
no
you.
question. No question.
They're going to be watching
less-
you,
less
your
than-
show. You'll probably get them quicker.
That clock is accurate. We're down to just a few seconds.
We are. Patty Martin, any last words?
No, I just was pleased to be here. It's been a long road. I'm glad that it's election night, so we can stop breathing again, and maybe having a little bit extra time. I mean, we feel that way. Imagine the candidates. You would know.
Right.
So, it's a long haul, but we just have to wait and see. A few more minutes, and we'll know.
Yeah.
We will.
I don't think there's a candidate that's right now thinking there's another thing they could have done.
No.
I think they're thinking.
They've done everything
I
they
gave
could.
it all. Their families are like, we gave it all, and I think that's the calm.
They did leave it all on the field this time,
That's it.
didn't they?
That's it.
Yeah.
What do you think, just finally, before we exit out of here for this segment, what do you think drove voters to the polls this year? Do you think it was the local races? Do you think it was the state races? Do you think it was just an anxiety about national issues or ballot questions? What was the driver?
Or the
Why was
75 postcards we got in the mail?
why are we seeing this high voter turnout today in a midterm on a rainy day?
I think it started at the top
I agree.
and trickled down.
Yeah, I agree.
Because-
the national scene.
Yeah.
I mean, you turn on the TV, that's all you've heard for the last several months.
Right.
It's the midterm election.
So is this election a referendum on Donald Trump? And does that even filter
Wow.
down to the local races?
You heard what
here?
he said. Vote like you're voting for me.
Yeah, it's to a certain degree, that's for sure.
Or is this a referendum on the press?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a whole lot of things circulating. But one thing they do is they got people excited. Trump, whether you give Trump the credit or not, or who you give it to, they got people excited. Right? They may backfire on them. They got them excited to come out. They didn't support their candidates. But the reality is, people want to feel that excitement. When they don't feel it, they stay home. And that's what happened to me in that race. Is we're looking for 1,335 people that typically we know the names.
I think
would have come out to vote and
I think
never showed up.
the Supreme Court nomination of
Triggered it.
really jacked us all.
So we
really
don't- yeah.
lit the fuse.
So they say that angry voters are motivated voters, that
Oh,
those are the ones that go out to the polls, are the angry voters. In 2016, obviously, it were the Republicans that were angry after 8 years of President Obama. 2 years later, is it the Republicans that are still angry, or is it the Democrats? Who's angry?
I think everybody's
Who's
angry,
angry?
and I think the Kavanaugh thing, really energized the Republican base.
There were other candidates out there that they could have put him aside and they could have picked someone else, but he just didn't want. They didn't do that.
So who's angrier, the Democrats or the
took a
Republicans?
side.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Everybody took a side.
Yeah, right. I just think that they're probably angry on both sides. And like I said, it starts at the top and it's trickled down. And at one time, local politics was different. Now it's like we're angry at local politics now. So why? But it started up here. You learn your lessons from the top.
After this election, you know how some people, the sort of adage, you don't talk about, go to social events and talk about politics or religion. I don't think anybody's going to be talking about politics. I don't care what side.
Thanksgiving?
I don't think anybody wants to
I've
hear
already
it.
decorated for Christmas because I couldn't stand it anymore to make me feel good.
The first person that brings it up at Thanksgiving, that's it. They'll be out on the lawn.
Maybe we can divide over football again.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Can we
That
hurry
was
up
the
and make
hardest
another
thing.
That's the problem. That politics sometimes isn't as pleasant as it used to be because everything is just so.
The football was the big
So
thing at one
emotional.
time. Now it's this.
Yeah, and again, it may sort of be that thing where you don't talk about it. Nobody talk. Don't even bring up the subject. I don't care. We're exhausted, right? It's been a tough 2 years.
Well, Dean Mazzarella, Patty Martin, I know you both have places to go. You have candidate parties to go see. You're going to be celebrating tonight?
I'm heading down to Leominster. We'll see what happens.
No, all the Fitchburg candidates are partying in Leominster tonight.
Yep.
Party.
Yep.
They are. All the Fitchburg, both state rep candidates,
Yeah,
state senate candidates.
we're all
they're
down at
in-
Sue's.
they're
They're all
in
going to head
Leominster.
down to Sue's tonight and wait for the numbers to. They'll probably know before I get there. By the time I drive through Fitchburg into Leominster, kind of dark too.
Very good. All right, so we're gonna wait. These results should be coming in hopefully within the next 15-20 minutes. We're gonna see results start coming in. Yeah, Zach William, they're coming. Relax. Be patient. He's telling us that Fox has called projected Elizabeth Warren and Charlie Baker.
Wow,
but,
they really went on.
That was a tough one.
Surprise.
That's a tough one, huh?
That was a tough one.
Somebody's into the big bonus. After this, I mean, that's cutting edge.
Well, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having us. It was fun.
We're going to take a breather for a couple minutes, and then Mark and I will take it from
Get
here
back
and
to
start getting in these results. So don't go away, because we should be getting some hard numbers in here pretty quickly. So stay with us. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Hello and welcome to FATV, Fitchburg Access Television. Each week we take pride in providing some of the best public access television programs in New England. From FATV live sporting events, city meetings, and school functions, to weekly shows such as Barbara and You, Inside and Discussing Fitchburg, Sports Weekly, Weekly Wellness, and Our City. Our dedicated staff of industry professionals and hard-working volunteers is here each week, working behind the scenes, making it all happen. Besides on air, our programming is also shown live online, where you can see our shows in beautiful high definition. You can also search through our archive of past shows and watch anytime at your leisure. But did you know you can also be part of the action? Become a member of FATV, and you gain access to all the equipment, studio space, and classes that FATV has to offer. You can create your own show, volunteer for exciting live events in our studio, or all around the city in our high-quality mobile broadcast truck. The possibilities are endless. For a small fee, you can become an individual member. Or for a little more, you and a group of friends can become part of a rising trend in the future of television. From sports shows to news shows, civic events, and talk shows, you can be in the driver's seat by directing and even starring in your own production. Also, students are free. FATV staff can assist you by getting your new show up and running with professional industry standard equipment, TV studio time, and private editing suites. All you need are friends to help out, and before you know it, you will be on the air. So if you have a great idea for a TV show and want to share it with the world, stop by 175 Kimball Street, Fitchburg for a free tour of our facility. You can also contact us at 978-343-0834 or email us at info@fatv.org. Fitchburg Access Television, working together for a stronger community.
Tabulated.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome back to FATV's coverage of Election 2018. I'm Kevin Cormier here with Mark Bedanza.
Hi, Kevin.
Mark, now's the fun time. Now we just hurry up and wait.
We're getting down there.
So what do you think? What are you looking for tonight as the results come in?
I'm really interested in the state senate campaign. I think that could be a close race. I know it was a hard-fought one. We know that the turnouts are historically high, and it should be a very interesting result.
Who do you think the high voter turnout helps in this election?
Well, the conventional wisdom, of course, is the Democratic candidate would be helped by a high turnout. But I'm not, so much has changed over the last couple of election cycles. It's hard to know for sure, but you still have to feel better about a high turnout, I think, if you're a Democratic candidate.
Yeah. How about the difference between Leominster and Fitchburg? Because Leominster usually has a significantly higher voter turnout than Fitchburg.
Right.
Yet Leominster tends to be a bit more conservative than Fitchburg, but you have the Leominster candidate who's a Democrat. And
right.
There's so many moving parts in this one.
It's kind of an anomaly. And if you look at the early voting numbers, I think I heard tonight that the Fitchburg early voting number was about 2,200.
Yeah.
And I believe Leominster's was a little over 3,300. So about a third more.
Right.
So, who does that bode well for? I mean, obviously, Dean Tran needs to make a good showing in Fitchburg.
Right.
And then we don't know what, in the special election with the independent candidate, with Claire Frieda running, we don't know what the impact of that was yet.
Well, it was a very close race in the state Senate special election last winter. Dean Tran carried Fitchburg by 23 points.
Right.
Sue Shalafu carried Leominster by 8 points. but a big chunk of that was also Claire Frieda,
Right.
that pulled about 20% of that Leominster vote, which really suppressed somebody's numbers.
Right.
Now, the Chalafoot people are going to say, well, there were 2 Leominster people, so they split the Leominster vote. The Tran people are going to say, well, Claire Frieda's people tend to be conservative, tend to be Republican, so some of those are our votes.
We just don't know, and we perhaps will never know.
Yeah.
What the story is with that. But there's so, like you said, there's so many moving parts. We know that both candidates worked hard.
Yeah.
I think that's clear. And they posed very different ideological bases and positions. So it's a real test.
So you're a historian, you're a political observer.
Yeah.
Are there any particular wards or precincts that you're going to be looking at tonight as bellwethers?
Well, in Leominster, I would be, my own ward that I represent, Ward 4. Usually 4B is one of the highest voter turnouts in the city. As we know, in the special election, I think that was won by Tran.
By 3 votes.
By just
3 votes. 206 to 203 in 4B.
So that may give us some indication. If we get the result from 4B, it may tell us something about what's going on here. I mean, conventionally, we would think that Chalafoot Zephyr has to win in Leominster. And I think 4B would be a good indication of whether that's going to be so or not.
How much does she have to carry 4B by in order to win, do you think?
I would think, she really has to be up there by, at least 10 points, something like that. I mean, like you said, the turnout in Fitchburg will probably, assuming that Tran wins in Fitchburg, I mean, I don't know how much you can assume about any of this,
right?
But assuming that he did, one has to give this, get the sense that she's going to have to win Leominster by a fairly good margin.
And then you have Gardner thrown into the mix too. That's a pretty good chunk of votes.
Yeah.
That was almost dead even. I think Tran won Gardner by about 18 votes.
This is a situation where Gardner could be the determining factor.
And you talk about a high voter turnout in Leominster and Fitchburg. Gardner has a Proposition 2.5 override on the ballot also.
That'll drive some vote too.
That's going to drive out some even votes. So Gardner could play a role in this too.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't know. A Proposition 2.5 override. How does what kind of voters come out on that? I mean, I'm thinking you probably have more conservative taxpayers who are motivated to come out and vote no, but you also have, those school moms, those soccer moms that are motivated to come out and vote yes, which I'm thinking helps the Democratic candidates.
Should be interesting. I mean, interesting night to say the least.
Okay. How do you think? Any thoughts on the Leominster state rep race?
Yeah, I've thought all along that I would, I'd be surprised. I mean, I know she's a freshman, but I'd be surprised if Natalie loses this. I think the mayor made a good point. She's very her positions, although maybe a little bit too liberal for some of Leominster's voters at least. She's a pretty genuine person. I think she comes across that way. And again, I go back to the trust and likability factor. I think that's high with her. Even if you don't necessarily agree with her policies, and the mayor made a point about her constituent service, which I think is very good. So, although she had a difficult start with that vote on the pay raise and all of that, I would say that would surprise me if she gets upset. I would think that would be a significant upset in my view.
Yeah, she has a strong get out the vote effort. But so will the Republicans these days, but more on behalf of Dean Tran. I'm guessing that you would agree that if Dean Tran has a good get out the vote effort, that's also going to help Palmieri?
I think it certainly won't hurt him. How much it will translate, I don't know. But I think the local Republican Party has been more active than it's been in a long time. And to some measure, I think the Senate, the U.S. Senate race between Dale Kingston and Lindstrom, I think motivated that a little bit too.
We have our first hard numbers coming in for the evening. At 8:14 p.m. We have Fitchburg, Precinct 2B. What do you want to go with first? You want to go with State Senate?
Let's go with the State Senate.
State Senate, Tran, 646. Zephyr, 467. State Rep, Steve Hay, 728. Elmer Eubanks, 361. So it's so that's a pretty good margin, obviously, for Steve Hay. If you're Steve Hay, you're happy with those numbers starting to come in.
I think you got to be. Yeah. Unless that's a significant outlier. That's a pretty strong message in that first precinct.
So that was Fitchburg's Ward 2B. In the special election last year, Dean Tran beat her 224 to 107. So it looks like by about a 2-to-1 margin. This one was 646 to 467. So it does look like Councilor Shalafou was outperforming where she was in that particular ward when you go by percentage.
Absolutely, clearly.
So, so again,
so we have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go, but in that first precinct, Councilor Shalafou outperforming what she was doing in Ward 2B. We have Ward 3B in Gardner coming in, and in Ward 3 in Gardner, 3B, Dean Tran, 436. Sue Shalafou Zephyr, 366 in the city of Gardner. And again, that is Ward 3B. And if we look in Gardner, actually, Councilor Shalafou beat Dean Tran 110 votes to 105 votes.
That's an interesting one.
That's an interesting one. So this time around, Tran comes out on top in that precinct by a pretty good margin, 436 to 366.
You know, as we were talking about earlier, if Leominster and Fitchburg offset each other, Gardner could be a big factor in this race.
Are you keeping a running total here?
I can. Okay. I can. Let's get more organized.
All right, Fitchburg, it looks like we have 1A and 1B coming in together. Dean Tran, 513. Sue Zephyr, 446. Elmer Eubanks, 210. Steve Hay, 523.
I'm sorry, what was Eubanks?
523.
Oh, I thought that was Hay.
Hold on, let me go back here. I'm sorry, Hay 523, Eubanks 210.
Okay. So that's both precincts?
Both precincts.
Okay.
Leominster, Ward 5B. Ward 5B, Dean Tran, 607. Sue Zephyr, 567. In 5B, last time, let's take a look. Sue Zephyr beat him 180 to 171. She beat him by 9 votes. Today, Dean Tran carries Leominster's Ward 5B, 607 to 567. What is that telling you, Mark?
Well, it's telling me that Dean Tran may still be having short, shallow breaths, but they might not be as short and shallow as they were 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, that first precinct, Councilor Zephyr was outperforming, but since then it looks like Senator Tran is the one that's outperforming. State Rep in Ward 5B, Natalie Higgins, 653. Richard Palmieri, 516.
Yeah. Interesting.
Your thoughts?
Well, that falls, I mean, that, to me, I mean, that obviously is too close to call at this juncture.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not surprised that Natalie bested Palmieri in that precinct, but the margins are perhaps a little closer than I thought it might be.
And someone sending me the Crocker School Elementary results. Thank you for that.
Okay, that's great.
But that's great. And just as we look at some of the ballot questions too, I'm going to go back to that. So in 5B in Leominster, question 1, 334 on yes, 812 no
That's
on
not going
question
to,
one.
no is, I would be shocked if no doesn't prevail.
Yeah. And question two, none of these are close. Question two, yes is 783, no is 363. And on question three, which is the transgender equal access law, 737 voters in Ward 5B voted to keep it, and only 426 want to repeal it.
Well, the one that interests me is question two, because I don't think people really have a great handle on what they were voting about, to be honest with you.
In Gardner, we have Gardner, Ward 4. It doesn't say whether this is A or B, wherever the police station is in Gardner, Ward 4. Dean Tran, 328. Sue Shalafu Zephyr, 353. So she beats him in Ward 4. She also beat him in Ward 4A and B in Gardner in the special election last time around. We have Ward 5A in Leominster. Dean Tran, 422. Sue Zephyr, 459.
All right.
Natalie Higgins, 521. Paul Mary, 356.
Okay, well, it's starting to fall into place.
I have a Ward 2. I'm thinking it's, yeah, the Ward 2 in Leominster. Precinct A. Dean Tran, 262. Sue Zephyr, 369. Ward 2B. Dean Tran, 466. Sue Zephyr, 448. Ward 2C. Dean Tran, 243. Sue Zephyr, 261.
Interesting.
State Rep Natalie Higgins in Ward 2A, 446. Paul Mary, 208. Ward 2B, Higgins, 530. Paul Mary, 394. And in Ward 2C, Higgins, 295. Paul Mary, 207.
Yeah. Higgins is looking pretty safe.
I think so. So what do you think so far? We have a lot of results coming in.
Trying to keep them all straight. I'm going to tally up Leominster on the state senator side.
In Ward 2A, Dean Tran, 676.
What city are we in?
Leominster, I'm sorry. Dean Tran, 676.
Which ward is this?
1A.
Oh, 1A.
1A.
Okay.
Dean Tran, 676.
Yeah.
Sue Shalafu Zephyr, 637. Natalie Higgins, 704. Richard Palmieri, 597.
Yeah. I think that one is effectively over.
So do we have a running result?
I'm gonna tabulate the state senate running result. my math is correct, Tran has polled so far, well, that's only in 2,676 votes in Leominster for Tran.
And we have our first projection to make for the night. We are projecting that Kathleen Reynolds Daignault has been reelected to a third 6-year term as Register of Deeds of Northern Worcester County. Register Daignault faced a primary challenge earlier this year by Leominster City Councilor Dave Cormier and Patty Buckley Malcolmson, a title examiner who challenged Ms. Daignault 6 years ago. In that race, Ms. Daignault was able to pull away with, come out of that primary with a win with about 50% of the vote. Patty Buckley Malcolmson continued her campaign into the general election with a write-in campaign. The write-in campaign tonight is unsuccessful, and Kathy Reynolds Daignault easily reelected to a third 6-year term as Register of Deeds.
So what I have in the on the Senate side so far is I have Shalfo Zephyr with a slight lead in Leominster, 2741 to 2676. I have Tran leading in Fitchburg, 1159 to 913, and I have Tran leading in Gardner, 764 to 719. So we got a barn burner, I think.
In the state Senate race, it may be kind of a long evening.
It could be. It's going to take several more results to get a feel for where this is going. We're just scratching the surface, I think.
Right. And any thoughts on the Registry of Deeds race?
I think that was pretty much expected. Yeah. You know, conventionally, one would say that running a write-in candidacy against an incumbent is a long shot, to say the least.
Right. So it looks like with about 20% of the precincts in, Dean Tran, 4,469 votes. Councilor Susan Chalafu Zephyr with 4,273 votes. So she's leading by about, he's leading by less than 200 votes with 20% of the precincts in.
We're going to have to wait a while on that one.
I think we are. That's okay, and the results are coming in fast and furious, but I think they're taking care of that in the control room back there. It looks like they're getting those numbers up pretty quickly, doing a great job. We have a great team here at FATV tonight. We have an whole army of people out at the polls getting these numbers to us as quickly as possible, and we also have a whole army of people back in the control room making sure that everything goes smoothly tonight, and they've done a great job bringing these live reports from the polling locations, talking to voters out there, getting some of their views, and then really boogieing it down to these polling locations to get us these numbers coming in fast and furious. So we also have, with 31% of the precincts in Fitchburg, Steve Hay leading 2,084 votes to Elmer Eubanks' 924 votes.
I think Hay's in pretty good shape.
Hay's in good shape.
Yeah.
And you know, talk about a race that kind of went against the grain this election cycle. We've seen so much division, we've seen so much animosity, but then we look at this race and we have seen nothing but respect and cordiality. We see two really great guys running for the seat. Yeah. And they have disagreements on issues, but it has never gotten personal.
Well, you got to respect that. We need more of that, obviously. And this is Eubanks' first run for political office?
He ran for state representative, but not around here. I believe it was out in the Bolton area that he ran probably about 15 years ago.
I see.
But this is his first run
locally.
This is his first run locally, yeah. But the thing is also is, you know, when we look at a state reps race. I mean, Steve Hay, very, very well established, has deep roots in Fitchburg, served the community for 30 years in many different capacities, school committee, city council, now state rep. Nice guy. If you're going to take out an incumbent, you need to come after an incumbent pretty hard, and you have to have, really have to have a reason for it. And
yeah, that's a difficult race.
It is.
You know, as you said, Steve's got a lot of name recognition, all positive.
Yeah.
A lot of deep roots in the community. You're right. That was going to be a difficult task for anybody.
And Elmer just, Elmer, a great guy, but probably not the candidate to go really hard hitting and try to take down an incumbent. He just doesn't. That's not his personality. He's just he's a nice guy.
Well, I mean, look at there's
great city council race. Hold that thought. We have a projection to make. We are now ready to project that Stephen Hay has been reelected as state representative representing the city of Fitchburg and Lunenburg Precinct 2B. Representative Hay, first elected to the House after Steve DiNatale was elected mayor. He was elected in a special election, actually beat Dean Tran for that seat.
That's right, I remember that.
And then Dean Tran came back and won a state Senate seat. So you never know, and that's something that all the candidates should understand. The candidates that don't come out on top tonight, you never know what the future holds. Don't get too down, right?
Exactly. No question about it.
So, congratulations to Representative Stephen Hay, reelected to the House of Representatives, and congratulations to Elmer Eubanks, who really ran an above-board campaign.
Got to respect that.
You got to respect it, and I know when we had our show here a week ago, and we were talking to Marcus, talking to you, I think all of us really hope that we haven't seen the last of Elmer Eubanks.
No. Never know.
Never know. So then we have another projection to make coming in. And we are now able to project, based on unofficial results, that Natalie Higgins has been reelected as state representative representing the city of Leominster. First elected 2 years ago in an improbable victory in a primary race, beating longtime city councilor Rick Marchand. Surprised a lot of people. And then went on in the general election, defeated now city councilor Frank Ottinger, who was a Republican. Came out of the gate, really took a lot of positions, very progressive positions that may not exactly align with the city demographics, but she built a reputation very strong on constituent services, on accessibility, being available. And tonight, the city of Leominster is sending her back to the House of Representatives.
Not a surprise.
Not a surprise for you. I know you were pretty confident about this one right from the beginning.
Yeah, not a surprise.
Excellent.
I do think Paul Murray had a pretty good showing for a first-time candidate, but I'm not surprised by the result.
So Natalie Higgins, I don't believe is at Slate yet, but her supporters are, and we have a team there. We have Michael Delamonica and Cindy Valentin are live at Slate, which is Sue Shalafou-Zephyr and Natalie Higgins' headquarters. Can we go to them live, see what the mood is?
All right, they're waiting for you.
Okay. Are we on?
Yep. Go ahead, Doc.
You on? Okay. I'm here with Andrea Friedman. I'm Michael Delamonica, and Andrea Friedman, member of the Gallatin campaign, longtime supporter of Sue Shalafou-Zephyr, and was a poll walker today. Why don't you tell the folks out there a little bit about what you saw poll watching and whatnot, what you see in terms of energy?
Sure. No, thanks for having me. I look forward to 1 p.m. We're steady. I had to guess, and this is not scientific.
Yeah.
It's in line. It depends which precincts, you know.
Yeah. Okay, we're back. Thank you. Hopefully we can get a better connection coming in there. So, so we have a couple different parties going on at that location. We have Sue Shalafou-Zephyr and we have Natalie Higgins. I believe Steve Hay is there tonight also. So hopefully we can get in touch with him. Talk to Steve Hay also. In the end, what drove those Leominster numbers for Natalie Higgins?
I think she's very forthright. I think she's candid. I think that her constituent service was good. I think she's a good campaigner. And in the end, people liked her. That's the bottom line in all of this, Kevin. Is you got to be liked.
It is. We have the one you were looking for, Ward 4B in Leominster.
Okay.
Dean Tran, 693. Sue Shalafou Zephyr, 560.
Oh, interesting.
What do you make of that? This was the precinct you picked as your bellwether.
I think that suggests a long night here for Sue Shalafou Zephyr. And that's not a great result.
The window isn't closed, but it's...
I don't think it's closed, but that's a blow.
It is a blow. And Natalie Higgins, again, we already called that race. 649 in 4B for Natalie Higgins, 596 for Rich Palmieri. That's probably the closest precinct we've seen, but it's also, 4B, I believe, is one of the most conservative precincts in the city.
It is. I think it is a conservative precinct.
Also, just an aside out there, Jeff Deal, 638, and Elizabeth Warren, 563.
In 4B?
In 4B.
Well, there you go.
So Jeff Deal.
There you go.
Jeff Deal beats Elizabeth Warren, 638 to 563. Charlie Baker beats Gonzalez, 988 to 246. Dean Tran beats Sue Shalafou Zephyr, 693 to 560. The only Democrat to come out on top in 4B is Natalie Higgins. So
interesting.
It's a pretty...
It's what the mayor was talking about, you know? I mean, people they can vote for Natalie Higgins and vote for Charlie Baker. I mean, it's...
It is. We have Ward 4C coming in Leominster. Dean Tran, 403. Sue Shalafou Zephyr, 434. In 4C. And Natalie Higgins, 474. Rich Palmieri, 357. Charlie Baker, 621 to 201. Elizabeth Warren comes out on top of Jeff Deal in 4C by 415 to 386.
That makes sense.
A little bit of a mixed up.
Yeah,
a little bit mixed up.
4C is got a different demographic than 4B by a pretty good margin.
Yeah. So we know that so far at the Elks in Leominster, we have three Republicans down there. We have Rich Palmieri, Elmer Eubanks, Dean Tran. Looks like only one out of the three is still in this race tonight, which is Dean Tran, who's looking in
it looks like
comfortable position.
It looks like not
a done deal.
Yeah, but looking at what we have from Leominster, Fitchburg, and Gardner thus far, it appears that Tran is winning in all three cities.
Yeah.
Not by much.
Right.
Except for Fitchburg's a little bit. He's got a better, the biggest advantages in Fitchburg thus far. But it's still a close race overall.
Right. So let's go live to Republican headquarters at the Elks, to Glenn Fossa, who is live at Dean Tran, Elmer Eubanks, and Rich Palmieri headquarters. Live to Glenn. We've got some Gardner precincts. No Glenn?
No Glenn.
All right, no Glenn. So let's talk about Gardner. We go back to Gardner. Ward 1 in Gardner. Ward 1A, Dean Tran, 489. Sue Shalafou Zephyr, 387. So Ward 4B in Gardner. Dean Tran, 225. Sue Shalafou Zephyr, 116. So that was a pretty big...
Yeah, so Tran is widening the gap in Gardner.
So let's take a look at what that was in the special election compared to what we have here. I'm sorry, did I say ward? Because that's one ward.
1A.
1A and 1B, yeah.
Oh, and you said 4B.
I'm sorry, yeah, 1A and 1B.
Okay.
1A and 1B. So in the last race, Sue Shalafou Zephyr beat Dean Tran in 1A by 3 votes. In this election, Dean Tran beat her by 102 votes. And in B, Dean Tran actually beat her 65 to 26, so beat her by about 40 votes, and beat her by a good 2-to-1 margin this time in 1B.
So if my math is correct, Tran is leading in Gardner 1478 to 1222.
Yeah. And here's Ward 4B in Gardner. Sorry, Ward 4B in Gardner. Dean Tran, 214. Sue Shalafu Zephyr is 200. So Dean Tran beating Sue Shalafu Zephyr 214 to 200. 14 votes. In the special election, she had beat him. Not by much, but by 46 to 42 to 36.
Still close, but trending in the right direction for Tran.
Yeah. Okay, and let's see, what is this? Fitchburg, Ward 3B.
Okay.
Dean Tran, 649. Sue Zephyr, 491. So that's a pretty good margin there, 649 to 491.
Yeah, as predicted, Tran is doing best, obviously, in Fitchburg.
Yeah, and 3B, 3B last race he beat her, but not by too much, 164 to 103. And we have some more coming in from Gardner, Ward 2B in Gardner, where Dean Tran, 519 to 340. And in 2B, last time, Dean Tran beat her by a good 2-to-1 margin, 224 to 107.
Well, that's sort of holding up.
It is. It's not quite as much. She's outperforming a little bit in that particular ward.
But the numbers are higher,
Right.
you know.
All right, so I think we have Leominster 4A, which I think is going to round out all of Leominster's Ward 4, right?
That's
we already have B
Yep,
and C.
that's right.
So Dean Tran in Ward 4A, Leominster, 718 votes. Sue Zephyr, 594.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
No. State Rep Higgins, 684. Palmieri, 632. Oh my goodness. And we have some results from Lancaster that have come in. In Lancaster, Dean Tran, 875. Sue Shalafu Zephyr, 666.
Do we know what ward or precinct those are from?
It does not say that on the receipt.
Okay.
The receipt here. Do they have more than one precinct in?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I should have researched that ahead of time.
Yeah.
Can we get a call in?
Very good.
So right now, it looks like Tran is leading Shalafu Zephyr in Leominster.
He is. He's leading her in Leominster. He's leading her in Fitchburg, and I believe he is leading her in Gardner.
Yeah.
So,
in Lancaster, apparently, somewhere in Lancaster, at least.
Somewhere in Lancaster. Lancaster. Let me see. Lancaster does have two precincts.
All right, so that's one of them, apparently.
It does, and it looks like in Lancaster, in the special election, she beat him by 2 votes.
Ah.
In Lancaster. So we'll see what's happening with this one. But how are we doing for Gardner at this point?
2211 Tran, 1762 Shalafu Zephyr.
Once again?
2211 Tran, 1762 Shalafu Zephyr.
So how does it, what are your thoughts going into this, looking at the Fitchburg, Leominster, and Gardner numbers?
At this point, it's pretty close, close to decision time.
Yep.
I would say at this juncture, something really surprising would have to happen to buck this trend. I'm not sure I'm ready to call it yet, but I would be very surprised if she can pull this out.
So we look at numbers coming in. We can't actually. Fitchburg 3A, We have Tran 949, Zephyr 582 in
just-
Ward 5A. In Ward 5A last time, he beat her by a pretty good margin.
3A
there,
or
too.
5A?
I'm sorry, 3A.
3A.
3A, and he beat her 328 to 163. So he really walloped her in the special election too.
David's calling.
Huh?
David's calling. Should I take it?
Yeah, put him on speaker. Why not?
David?
Hey, what's up?
You're on the air.
Yeah.
So what are you hearing?
Well, I tried to get some results there. I did get 4 and 5. I haven't totaled it all up, but it's looking like Tran probably won, the majority in 4 and 5. There was one precinct or two that she had like some, 100 more votes than he did, but I think he won overall. And somebody sent me the results out of Lancaster, and Tran won in Lancaster. So
Yeah, we're on the bubble in terms of calling this at this juncture. I think
I think that if she did what she did in Leominster, and that's all she did, I can't see how she won this thing, but I could be wrong.
She's from what we have thus far, she's behind in Leominster.
Okay, I figured.
And behind in Gardner.
And she's behind in all the three cities. So she won. It looks like she won Ward 2, and we don't have enough in. We don't have enough in Ward 1 to call anything. It looks like one could be. One's a toss-up still. It looks like. And it looks like 5 is still a toss-up too, but she lost in 4. There's no question about that. Yeah.
Right. I think based on what I've seen for numbers, and like I said, I couldn't total anything up. I think that if she didn't do as well in those places that she should have done much better, I think she's in trouble.
Well, she's getting bested in Fitchburg pretty significantly.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the end right there. And she lost Lancaster probably by about, 300 or 400 votes.
We have one result, and we understand there are 2 precincts there. And the result that we have 875 to 666.
Okay, I have another one from there as well.
Kevin told me to give it to you.
All right, what is it?
All right, so let me go over.
Loving 473.
Hold on. He just walked in.
You're on the air.
FCC regulations are in full effect.
You're live on the air, Dave.
Yeah, whatever.
He lost. He doesn't care.
All right, Dean Tran 875 to 666. You got that one right?
Yep.
Okay, and then Dean Tran 920 to 774.
All right, so he won Lancaster handily.
Yes, he did.
All right, we're going to update our numbers, and we'll talk to you a little later.
All right, I'm on my way to up to Fitchburg now.
Okay, very good.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
So the trend is sort of continuing. I'd wait. I think I'd wait. If we're going to call this, I think I'd rather see the whole result in either 1 or 5.
Yeah, in Leominster or Fitchburg?
Leominster.
Leominster?
Yeah.
I agree. We welcome Heather De Jesus, Flap TV contributor, and Alexander Ramos, who is the host of Flap TV FSU Edition, premiering November 30th, right?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for all your work today. We watched your interview with the voters. How was it out there today?
It was great. It was great. Seeing how the voters, their passion, and how democracy in action is amazing. And one thing that I find about this election that's very passionate is the ballot questions. Questions 1 and 3 were talked about all the time in all my interviews.
So you found that when you talked to voters, it was a lot of ballot questions that were driving them to the polls?
Yes.
Wow, that's surprising.
How about question 2? Did you find people?
I didn't see much about question 2.
Right.
Yeah,
that's the one that's it's quizzical to me. I don't know what drove the vote on that one.
Yeah, it seems that from what I got on it, just from what I got from talking to people, is that they like the idea of getting the money out of politics, getting soft money out of politics, but they didn't like the minutia of that bill, written in that bill about this 15-member commission and who's going to appoint this Citizens Commission.
Troubled me.
Okay, so it troubled you. So what were your concerns about?
When you start talking about commissions, especially at the state level, I start having questions. So
is that like a poison pill in that bill? Do you think?
Whoever it'll go, it'll be interesting.
I think it looks like it's doing well, though.
Well, I think it's gonna pass, but what happens after it passes, is a bigger question.
Right.
I'm not surprised by question 1.
Yeah, that's getting beat pretty soundly.
It is. I'm not surprised by that either.
Yeah, I'll
I had as many nurses tell me to vote no as to vote yes.
I'll tell you,
more. I had more nurses personally tell me to vote against it.
To vote against, and I'll tell you, and I think we go back a long time, Mark. We go back about 30 years. I think you would agree that I'm a pretty astute observer of politics.
Yeah.
It is very rare that I will leave a race blank.
Yeah.
I blanked the question 1. I did. I left it blank in question 1 because when I got in that voting booth, I just didn't know. I listened to the debates. I even, NPR went back and forth, and both sides had some really good points. And when push come to shove, I just didn't feel confident enough in myself that I could make a really informed decision, and I left it blank.
Yeah. Interesting.
Heather, you had quite the day today. We started off with coffee at about 7:30 this morning,
we did.
And then you've been full on since then.
All day. It's been awesome. I really have had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This is great. I can't wait for us to do it again. But what was really inspiring was just how many young people got out to vote. I probably had more, of the demographic, more your age there, Alex, than ever before. It was really inspiring. The other thing that I thought was really great to see was families bringing their kids in to watch them vote. I did happen to talk to a couple of people and asked, how was the experience bringing in your kids? And their kids were really excited about it. It was just great to see.
That's great, and I know they FSU. You're part of the student government. You're the student. You're the student trustee at Fitchburg State University. Very active in the student government. I guess you guys shuttled some voters, set up shuttles for voters to go.
We did.
Vote at the polls. How did that go? Did students take advantage of it?
They did. The turnout was awesome. It was great because the president of the university, he also announced it too, saying that we were voting. So there was announcements all over campus. So we made sure that all the voters came out and vote. And also, regarding the ballot questions, the SGA also endorsed question 3 on the ballot to ensure that the student representatives, basically, they supported the people who I identified in the LGBT community, because that would affect the campus.
Okay.
Yes.
So there was an effort again on ballot questions to get young people out to vote. What were the demographics that you saw? You saw a lot of young people. The voters out there, did they tend to be the angry voters that wanted change, or did they want, what did you see?
I saw a lot of angry voters, actually. I don't know which clips of mine you used today, but there was a couple of exceptionally angry voters in particular that wanted to stand in line and talk to me to tell me that they were angry. And then there was a lot of voters who were just wanted to be part of change. Everything that's been going on in politics, like it or not, has been a big catalyst. And so they're just a catalyst for change in general.
Excellent. And what's really, and this is where politics can get kind of strange, because we say we saw a lot of angry voters out there, but when you look at the results, the governor reelected, our U.S. senator reelected, both state representatives in Leominster and Fitchburg reelected. I'm not sure where the rest of the district is going in the congressional race, but it looks like the Democrats will hold on to that seat in Congress for Lori Trahan. I mean, she's doing pretty well in Fitchburg, and if she can do well in Fitchburg, she's gonna steamroll.
Yep.
She's gonna steamroll. Mark, historian.
Yeah.
When is the last time a Republican represented Leominster as state representative?
A Republican. Got to go back a long ways. 50s? 50s?
Keep going.
40s?
Keep going.
Come on.
Wow.
Yeah. 1936.
Whoa.
Wow.
1936.
Wow.
And at that point, that was common.
It was.
Yeah, because I know from my research, like looking at the early 20th century, 19th century, Leominster is a very conservative place, and almost always represented by Republican state reps.
And only half the city. Leominster had two state representatives back then. One was a Democrat, one was Republican. And then in 1936,
the unified.
Comerford was, no. Comerford was the incumbent.
Was he the last one?
He was the last one. Comerford.
Knew him well.
Did you?
Yeah, sure. When I started practicing law, he was in the office I was in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we were friends.
Sometimes I forget how old you are.
I'd spend Christmas Eve in his home.
Would you really?
Yeah, I knew him well. He's a great guy.
Do you know who he was beat by?
No. Jack Mahan?
Jack Mahan's father,
Right.
Arthur Mahan. Arthur Mahan. And Arthur Mahan defeated Comerford in 1936, and the Democrats have held on to that state representative seat in Leominster ever since.
Ever since. How I like that.
Wow. Ever since. That's something, huh? But the Republicans have been pretty competitive lately, haven't they?
Well, things are changing a little bit, but not tonight.
I'm not sure what what the final percentage is going to be in Leominster, but I think the closest they've come was 54% against Dennis Rosa when they ran Peralt. Peralt.
I don't think
excuse me, Rosa got 54%.
Right.
Rosa got 54%.
It won't be that close tonight, but it may be, looking at the numbers that we had thus far, if they held up, it looked like it might have been, we were in the teens? High teens?
It's up there. I think they're keeping track of it now a lot better. I mean, I've been getting the texts coming in fast and furious.
Right there. So you're looking at
44. What is it?
4771 was that?
Yeah, 4771.
Versus it's swapped off.
And they have about 60% in, it looks like, but we're gonna.
All right. So we got some numbers coming up there.
So 4771
plus 3861.
All right, 4771.
It's going to be about 12%, maybe.
4771. What was his number?
3861.
3861. And let's calculate that. And that calculates of her getting 55.27% and him at 44%. So about 11%.
I wasn't far off.
You weren't.
12.
You said 12. That's
it's a respectable showing for a guy first time in.
It hasn't lived in Leominster very long.
It goes to what you were speaking to. Leominster's a conservative place.
It is. Was that 44% primarily a pro-Paul Mary vote? Was it an anti-Natalie vote?
Who will never know? Isn't that the beauty of politics?
Well, that's what you're here for, to analyze that.
Speculate. Yes. I think it's a lot of things. Always, it's a party line vote. It's an issues vote. It's a personalities vote. For or against. It's all of it.
We have Lunenburg. Lunenburg is coming in, and Lunenburg. Precinct 1, Dean Tran, 653. Sue Shalafu Zephyr, 410 in Precinct 1. Or I assume it says 1, so I assume that means A. I don't know, they put 1, but it's listed on the Secretary of State's website as...
How many, what do they have, 4?
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like he beat her in all
Lunenburg precincts.
All of Lunenburg.
In the special election.
Right.
I just want to see, I mean, we could probably, we weren't going far out in the limb to call this at this juncture, but I really would like to see 1 or 5 in Leominster in total. I mean, she'd have to make up some serious ground, but.
Well, we do have a couple in
We have
We
anything?
we do have a couple in Leominster's Ward 5, I believe, don't we?
We have, yeah, we do. We have 2 precincts in 5 and 1 precinct in Ward 1. Any chance we
Okay.
can grab another precinct in 1?
Yeah, keep talking, let me get it.
All right.
Talk to Heather.
Any surprises for you, Heather, today?
No, not really.
No? You think the ballot questions went about the way you thought they would, or?
You know, surprisingly, no. I would
Huh?
say there was a lot of people that were in Kevin's camp where they just didn't know how to vote.
Yeah.
Well, you know, again, a lot of people are saying they talked to different nurses, and it seemed, I did spend a lot of time talking to a gentleman in Ward 4. It seemed dependent on what type of nurse that you talked to, you got a different kind of...
Nurses were clearly divided on that.
They were really divided. It
Yeah.
seems that, you know, some were in the camp of, well, if you're an administrator, if you're in management, you're gonna
Yes.
you're gonna push one vote, and if you're bedside, you're gonna push another vote.
There was a lot of money spent on that question.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about a union versus the management. Is that
Right.
what that really was?
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
What it reminded me of too is the hospital spent a lot of money trying to defeat the ballot questions, and
How do you guys feel about legislating by ballot questions generally? Do you think it's a good way to go in democracy, or do you think people really know what they're voting on when they get, you know, I mean, I looked at, you know, adult use marijuana when that was on the ballot. I don't know if people really know what they bargained for.
Right. I mean, as much as I want to say, yes, we should be a part of making these legislative decisions,
Yeah.
to your point, I didn't know where I stood. I didn't feel like I was the right person to be making this decision on the ballot question.
Right.
Number one in particular, that, you know, a lot of people left it blank. You know,
Yeah,
because we just
interesting.
didn't know. And you have a short amount of time to educate yourself. And then, you know, again, media is always skewed in a certain direction.
Exactly.
So depending on what sound bites you're listening to, you're really not fully educated in the topic.
Yeah, I wonder about it. It'd be interesting to see how many blanks there were on question 1, and look at it in comparison to some of the other ballot questions.
Especially when you have nurses, you know, so divided. Like I have friends and family who are nurses, and some said yes, some said no. So it's like, where do I stand?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot. I'd be interested to see the kind of money that was spent. But there was a lot of money spent on that.
Yeah, and just from the talks that I had today,
Ward 1 in.
I wish I had.
You just gotta find it.
I have all of Ward 1 in, but it was sent, I don't know whether it's A or B.
Well, maybe we can just get the total.
All right.
I mean, we have a.
All right, in one of them, Dean Tran 676
That was 1A.
to 637.
That was 1A. Yeah.
Okay. 676 to 637.
Yeah, 1A. Yeah.
That's still 1A. They're all that same one. Looks like McGovern did very well also.
Oh yeah, that's not a surprise.
Exactly.
He's been a really high profile.
He was in Leominster today for quite a while.
Was he?
Yeah, I saw him in front of 4 actually. Another likable guy, you know.
We've had him on the show a
Yeah,
couple times.
Really well liked guy.
And he actually calls us to come on the show.
Yeah.
He wants to.
Well,
he wants to talk to people, and that's one of the things that I was concerned about is when they broke up Leominster and Fitchburg, because you know there's a lot of talk that Fitchburg doesn't get the attention that it should. But
Well,
we're not-
that wasn't an accident, Kevin.
no, it wasn't. There's a purple section
Yeah,
running through.
somebody that would be popular in both Leominster and Fitchburg would be greatly advantaged.
Here's another one, Dean Tran 643, Sue Shalafu 571.
That's from coming from 1?
1.
And what were those numbers again?
643 to 571.
We don't know what precinct, but
No.
from 1. Yeah, I'd say this is over. You got any doubt about that now?
Let me find this. Let me find this last precinct in Ward 1.
Yeah.
Sue Shalafu Zephyr 490, Dean Tran 398. Well, she beat him by about 100 votes there.
Yeah, so she might have, I don't know, this is, I gotta tally it. It looks like he eked it out, but I'm not sure. Let's see.
It was a close race.
So it looks like Tran polled in Ward 1 in Leominster 17-17. And it looks like, let's see. Shalafu Zephyr 1698. So she lost in one. Yeah,
It's the windows closing. The path is
I think it's
the path is not a good one. If you're Dean Tran headquarters,
should be pretty happy.
You're ready to pop the champagne.
Yeah. It's chilled.
And here we go. We are ready to make a projection. FATV does project, based on unofficial results, that State Senator Dean Tran has been reelected to the Worcester Middlesex District. He is reelected to a full term, defeating Leominster City Councilor Susan Shalafu Zephyr. Tran defeated Shalafu Zephyr in a three-way race with Leominster City Councilor Claire Frieda. Actually, it was a four-way race. There was a Green Party candidate, Charlene D'Angelo, from Berlin last winter. It was a four-way race. It was a hard-fought campaign. It was, at times, a bitter campaign. I don't think there's much love lost between the two candidates.
No.
But tonight, Dean Tran is victorious and has been reelected to the state senate. Your thoughts?
Well, that was the race I thought it was the most dramatic of all of the ones we looked at tonight, and I thought that she had a chance. A lot of hard work on both sides, like you said, a lot of vitriol as well. I think she spent a lot of money. I think she fought a hard, tough race, and came up a little short. I mean, at the end of the day, Tran was the incumbent. Apparently well liked, did very well in Fitchburg. I mean, he's got a good margin of comfort there from his Fitchburg result, and it looks like he's going to win in Leominster too.
He is.
Looks like he's going to win in Leominster.
So it's a pretty good,
we don't have three, right? So, but it looks like the only ward that Shalafu Zephyr will win in Leominster, it looks like, is maybe 2, I think.
And 3 is a pretty conservative ward. I believe that Tran beat Shalafu Zephyr in 2 out of the 3 precincts in Ward 3 in the special election. So, if that trend,
Kevin, as I told you, Ward 4, I think, and particularly 4B, was the barometer here. Tran beating Shalafu Zephyr 693 to 560. It says speaks it all.
It does. So again, it looks like a year of the incumbents. Alex, your generation wants change. Where's the change?
To be honest, I think they say we want change, but at the same time, I think they're a little scared of change too, because I mean, we have the incumbents, and though Dean Tran, he is very popular as on the red side, which is surprising. But however, he has done a lot of good for the district. I mean, even though some may disagree with the stuff that he stands on. But however, in such a short time in office, he has, pulled a lot of funding for the district, and I think that's why people like him.
Do you think the young people find him as a likable candidate?
I do, and also because he's also a minority, he does bring diversity to in Boston, which is people do like a lot.
Yeah.
So.
He really does have an incredible story. I mean, he came floating. He came here on a boat. Risked his life, almost died. Coming here as a young child, obviously didn't speak any English. Worked his way up. Got a college degree, I believe, from Brandeis. Got elected to the Fitchburg City Council at a very young age.
I think it's one of the things that unite all generations is we all like underdogs, right?
Exactly. the American dream right there in action.
Yeah. And that's very much alive with young people, you know, as it was when I was a kid at Fitchburg State. A few years ago.
Just a few.
Heather, you're you know, you've been on the show a few times. You, I think it's fair to say you lean to the left.
I do.
You do. What are your thoughts on Senator Tran's victory tonight? What are your thoughts on Senator Tran and being represented by Dean Tran in the state Senate?
Well, you know, we definitely don't always agree on a few topics, but what really does resonate with me, and I think it resonates with a lot of people that I spoke to, is that you know, he's a go-getter. He does exactly what he says he's going to do. I mean, he does have a track record of saying, I'm going to accomplish this, I'm going to do that. And I think that resonates with people, that he's just kind of straight shooter.
That's great.
So to speak. Yeah.
Let's go live to Dean Tran headquarters at the Elks with Glenn Fossa from FATV. Hopefully. Live shot with Glenn.
There he is.
We expect Dean Tran in just a few minutes here at the Dean Tran camp over here in Leominster. The mood is excited at least, and very, very upbeat. I did promise the folks watching tonight that we would give the Crocker Elementary School results from their voting on November 5th. Charlie Baker winning clearly 360 to 162 against Jay Gonzalez. Rick Green, 288 to 221 against Lori Trahan, which was interesting. Dean Tran winning at Crocker Elementary School, 357 to 167 against Sue Shalafou-Zafir. And Stephen Hay, 291 to 212. So as the night went, our elementary school kids did pretty well in some of the predictions. The mood is upbeat. We do expect to see Senator Tran soon. We don't have any news yet as to whether or not there's been a concession speech, but the mood and the workers here seem to be celebrating right now. So we will keep you informed, and we do expect to hear from the senator as the night progresses, probably sooner than later. Back to you in the studio.
Very much, Glenn, and we look forward to hearing from Senator Tran this evening. Hopefully we can get back to you when he's ready to address his supporters. I think the mood is pretty good there, but you also have two other candidates there. We have a projection. Who are we projecting now? Lori Trahan has been elected to represent the 3rd Congressional District of Massachusetts. She will be replacing retiring Congresswoman Nikki Tsongas, who served 10 years in the House of Representatives. Trahan came out victorious in a field of what started as, I believe, 14 Democrats, whittled down to 11 Democrats by the time Election Day came. A lot of focus in the primary on Rufus Gifford and Dan Coe when it came to Fitchburg. And then on primary night, Lori Trahan ended up winning. Well, she actually won after a recount, but after the primary, she came out victorious, and a lot of people in Fitchburg said, Lori who? I mean, they never heard of her. All the talk was about Rufus Gifford and Dan Coe. And even through the general election, we didn't see much of Lori Trahan campaigning in Fitchburg. We saw a lot of Rick Green campaigning here. I think he tried to put all of his eggs in the north central Massachusetts basket, where there is that little sliver of red when it's the right candidate, as we've seen by the re-election of Senator Tran. But at the end of the day, those votes come from the Merrimack Valley. If you look at the 3rd Congressional District and take Fitchburg, Gardner, Ashburnham, Westminster, Lunenburg, combine them all, that comes to about 7% of the district population. 93% of it is elsewhere, is in Marlborough, Lowell, Dracut, Lawrence, Haverhill, Andover. No matter what Republican ran or what Democrat ran, the math is just really difficult. Yeah. That's a gerrymandered district.
Oh. It's we invented it here in Massachusetts, right?
We did, but you Republicans play it pretty well in Texas and other places too, though. What's good for the goose?
Yes.
I don't think, is there anything that Rick Green could have done? I mean, he even jumped into the Merrimack River. I mean,
Well, Laurie Trahan's going to go down to Congress and straighten out our health insurance, so I'm glad for that.
She is, and
according to her ads.
She's going to do a lot. It's Frederick Cobb. But she also had the whole Meehan machine behind her. Congressman Marty Meehan represented Lowell, the Merrimack Valley, for many years. He's now the Chancellor of UMass, the UMass system. And she was his chief of staff in Washington, D.C. So she has a lot of that network, a lot of the Meehan organization. So she had a lot of strength coming out of the Lowell, out of the Merrimack Valley area. Really, the only fault that I can find is that, you know, she did kind of write off this end of the district. I mean, it's pretty clear. She just, the only time she showed up here is when she came for a fundraiser to get some money, and then she left. Again, go ahead.
Well, I hope she doesn't govern that way.
Yes.
Well,
that's true.
I don't know, Heather.
We'll see.
Again, Heather, you're pretty progressive. Your thoughts on this race? And I'm not going to ask you who you voted for, but what were your thoughts on this race?
Well, you know, I understand playing the numbers. I understand playing to the advantages that she had. So from running a campaign, you only have so much you can do. I can appreciate that. But I really do hope that she doesn't forget about us and she doesn't forget about our part of the district. I look forward to an opportunity to redraw the district lines so we can have better representation out here. That's for sure.
Don't lose any sleep over that.
Well, you can start by calling your representatives. You know, we're going to have a census in a couple of years, and right after that, we're probably going to lose a congressional seat. We're probably going to go down to 8. I remember a time when we had 12, Mark.
Yeah, we just keep shrinking.
What's causing that?
People going south.
It's the weather, or just something that you said?
That's growth. a lot of residential growth in the south, not up here. I mean, a lot of our communities, they're maxed out. I mean, in Leominster, we have very precious little land that you could actually develop residential.
Yeah, there is.
Population growth is sort of, I mean, I marvel at our property values are as high as they are. People want that beautiful weather down south, but somehow we still maintain these property values.
Your thoughts on this race, Alex?
So it's not surprising to me. I mean, because especially since the primary was so crowded, and then obviously the victor of the primary was going to be the next person in Congress. But since Laurie Trahan was born and raised in Lowell, which is the largest city in the district, I think that served her well. I mean, as you can see in the numbers. So I think there's no surprise there. She won.
Yeah, you have over 100,000 people just in Lowell alone.
Just in Lowell alone.
She was not only born and raised in Lowell. She was a rock star there. She was an all-star. She got on the girls' basketball team, and
that stuff helps.
She worked her way through college, being a waitress at the Owl Diner in Lowell. Have you ever eaten at the Owl Diner?
I know where it is, but I've never eaten it.
Never eaten it? It's one of the few places I think I haven't eaten. I think we've eaten just about everywhere too.
Well, she branded herself pretty well there.
She did.
Very good. So, again, we look at. This is they talk about a blue wave, they talk about a red wave, but it didn't seem to be, at least on the local level, at least here in Massachusetts, didn't seem to be Democrat or Republican. It seemed to be incumbent versus challenger, and the incumbents came out on top.
Yeah, candidate oriented, yeah.
So the voters content? Because it's not, if you look at all the incumbents that are reelected, it's a mixed bag. You got a Republican governor, a Democratic U.S. senator. You have locally, you have 2 Democrat state representatives and a Republican state senator. So it's a mixed bag party-wise, but it looks like all the incumbents prevailed.
Yeah. Not terribly shocking, but the party system isn't what it used to be, right? Right. There was a time when people wouldn't cross party lines to save their life. That's gone out the window.
Really has. Unenrolled is now the number one party. Number one party in Massachusetts.
Segment,
yeah. It has the majority, not even the plurality. It has the majority.
Yeah.
It has the majority in Massachusetts.
And it shows, I think, in the results. People don't want to be constrained by party.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a lot of people say as they were leaving, like, this is the first time I didn't just vote party line. Like, people were talking about the fact that they voted for X number of Republicans and X number of Democrats, which, you know, I think is encouraging. I've never been a fan of voting party line. I think you need to vote for the individual and what they stand for.
Very good. What's, you're a colleague of Councilor Zephyr. What do you think is next for Sue?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, she ran a very, very good race. I mean, put her heart and soul into it, I'm sure. It's tough, you know. It's a tough place to be. I mean, I've been involved in races, never as a candidate, that kind of a loss, but certainly been involved in, we know.
Yeah. Hi, I guess we're having a little bit of a problem with the video feed. We have Michael Della Monica with us, who is live at Slate with, are you with Natalie Higgins?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Kevin, there's something to do with the audio in general, because I don't know if you can hear me because you're breaking up terribly.
No, you're fine. So who do you have with you?
Okay, so why don't I just talk then? I have here the victor of the 4th Worcester District race, Natalie Higgins. Hi, Flap TV.
Hi, Natalie. How you doing? Congratulations.
And so I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, congratulations, obviously. And when you came in and you thanked your supporters, you said, well, look, we got some good results here, but then maybe some results that we didn't want so much, so there's still some work to do. So tell us about your next 2 years. You did get a competitive race out of the challenger, Richard Palmieri. So what does that tell you about what maybe your next 2 years in terms of reaching out to some of the Leominster voters and some of your constituents?
Yeah, we're going to continue to do what we've been doing for the first 2 years, being accessible, being available, because people aren't reaching out to their state rep when they're having a good day, and we need to break down those barriers and find better ways to build communication. Because first and foremost, my role is constituent services and making sure folks have access to the programs that they need to be able to support their families and themselves. And so that is what I'm concerned about. There's also a lot of legislation left on the table, like the Student Loan Borrower Bill of Rights, that helps gateway cities like Leominster in particular, whose kids are struggling to figure out how to get an affordable college education. So I'm excited to continue to work with a diverse group of partners across the region and across the state to get these things done.
And Leominster is a diverse crowd and some conservative voters, and I'm sure when you went door knocking, especially with a very conservative challenger, you heard some voices of concern.
Yeah, sure.
So I guess one message to say, because we have viewers, liberal and conservative, what can you say to those conservative voters out there who say, well, look, we don't think, we voted for Natalie's opponent, we don't think Natalie speaks for us. What do you say to them in terms of being a voice for them on Beacon Hill?
Come into my office hours, come and talk to me. I don't think we're actually that far apart. We want our communities to do well. We want our people to be able to support themselves and their families without needing public assistance. We want them to have good jobs. We want them to have access to a good education. We might have different ideas on how to get there, and that's the really cool thing about the Massachusetts legislature. We have 160 reps from very, very diverse communities, and I feel lucky to represent a gateway city that has so much diversity, and we have a lot in common.
So focus on the similarities instead of differences. Again, Natalie Higgins, congratulations.
Michael, can you hear me? Michael? Okay, we are going to, that was Michael Della Monica live with Natalie Higgins, who was re-elected this evening to a second term in the House of Representatives representing the city of Leominster. We have Senator Dean Tran live with Glenn Fossa at the Leominster Elks. Congratulations, Senator Tran, and let's throw it over to Glenn Fossa.
And of course, Senator Dean Tran with us right here live at his camp. You ran on your record, Dean. Obviously, this worked for you.
Absolutely. We ran a very positive campaign. We continue the campaign from last December. And the message of being honest, hardworking, and listening and delivering results to the people, that message resonated with them.
We have somebody special here to be on with us right now. And, yeah.
Thank you.
celebrating, awesome. Dean, we'll let you go. We know there's a lot of people here that want to share this celebration with you and this victory. Good luck in the future, and of course, all the work you do as Senator.
Thank you very much, and I'm here to serve the people. Thank you.
Fitchburg Access Television live coverage right here at the Dean camp, where we're claiming victory tonight.
Thank you, Glenn Fossa. Congratulations to Senator Dean Tran, who was re-elected to a full term as state senator after being re-elected in that elected in that special election. There was a lot of in this race pairing up of candidates. You had Natalie Higgins very close to Sue Shalafu running almost a co-campaign, right up till the end where we saw in the election parties. We saw Dean Tran aligning, we saw Paul Mary aligning himself with Dean. I don't think Dean ever made an official endorsement, but Paul Mary really aligned himself with Dean. So do you think there's going to be work to really reach across those party lines and have our area state reps work with the state senator? I mean, they really need to work as a team for the area.
I think the three.
Is that doable?
Yeah, I think the three individuals involved can do that. I believe that. I think, it's natural. There is still a party system, so it's natural for some of that pairing to occur. But I think the three that got elected tonight can facilitate that.
Yeah, looks like a pretty active party there.
Yeah.
See some of our locals there. See Andrew Kuchar. Let's see who else we see. Nick Squalia, Joe Bowen. See a lot of our local politicos there as we see Senator Tran making his way through the crowd, being congratulated by his supporters. Again, good Senator Tran's birthday tomorrow. Good early birthday present for him and a well-deserved one. And again, we're just watching the scene at the Leominster Elks, where Dean Tran is being congratulated by friends, family, supporters. And we don't. Unfortunately, we're having problems with video feed at Slate. That's got to be a tough one too, because you have Natalie winning and you have Sue that came up short tonight. So. That's a tough situation. Tough to be in a room like that.
Yeah, it's a half a bag, I guess, right? So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It is so difficult. If you've been inside a campaign to watch how much blood, sweat, and tears goes in, and at the end, if you come up short, it's. We were talking a little bit with Mayor Mazzarella earlier this evening, and I of course served as state solicitor for his predecessor, who, when those results came in, we thought they were flipped. We had a guy with no political experience running against a long-term city councilor and a mayor, incumbent mayor, and beat him soundly. And that night, I remember Mayor Mazzarella mentioned Skip Burke's name. I remember Skip Burke telling me that night that Mazzarella could be mayor for 8 years if he wanted to. And I said, what, are you crazy? 8 years? You hang around that long? It turns out Skip Burke was wrong.
Skip Burke, 26 years. Yeah. And again, another surprise in 2017. I remember sitting with you in city council chambers when those election results came in, and I was numb.
Yeah, shocking.
I remember we were doing the Facebook Live, and I said, "You ready to go live, Mark?" And you said, "Nope." And it's not often that we're speechless, but I think we prepped ourselves tonight to not be surprised by anything. Were you surprised? Were there any surprises to you tonight?
I don't think so. Mildly by the spread on question 2, but that's a mild surprise. But as far as the state senate race, that was the one, like I said all along, that I wasn't sure about. But I can't say I'm shocked by the result. Yeah. But it seemed like Shalafu Zephyr was gaining ground to me. That's the sense I got, that there was a momentum building. I think she had to fight hard. I think Tran went in that as the prohibitive favorite, but I think she gained a lot of ground. I mean, I don't know if there's any reliable polling out there that anybody did, but my sense was that she came up short, but she gained some ground during the process, I think.
She did. So we have a local race around the corner now, right? This race ends, the next one begins, the local races. Are you excited to start Flap TV FSU Edition,
Yes.
Alex? Our
I'm
new
very
our host
excited.
of FSU Edition.
Yes.
And Heather De Jesus taking on a role with Flap also, with Flap Snapshot.
Yeah, I'm
And
excited.
she's excited. She's going to be going around town covering those local meetings and getting into issues that are important and controversial, and really getting in there and doing on-site interviews and reporting back to us. Also like to thank the whole crew here at FATV tonight. What a great crew we had out there doing interviews. On-site gathering results. Thank you to my co-host Mark Bedanza.
Oh, my
It's always
pleasure.
always great seeing you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, these people in the control room, what an amazing job they did tonight with all the challenges of technology. And you know, sometimes we hit, sometimes we miss with those
Yeah,
video
that's
feeds
right,
and Skype.
fortunately.
But we're just going to get better, right? This was the first time we really tried to raise the bar to this level.
Oh, good for you
And we're
guys.
gonna
You
get
did.
better
You did
at
a
it.
heck of a job. Good to
Yeah.
you know,
Thank you.
Kevin. Thank you for having me, and I'm impressed by all your hard work, and you've certainly bettered the city out there and the electorate, and people have a great resource here.
Thank you. That's great, and we look forward to seeing a lot more of you in the next couple of years. That's going to do it for FATV coverage of Election 18. I'm Kevin Cormier, along with Mark Bedanza, Heather De Jesus, and Alexander Ramos. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.